Skyrim belongs to the nerds!
God damn it. We can never start one of these things sensibly at all. At all. Everyone, welcome to the Newbcast podcast for the 11th of August, 2019. This week we have been joined by our guest, Shanna, who is the chairwoman of 2DCon. And I think
currently frozen.
I think she froze.
Well, the joke was just that bad.
Of course, that would happen.
Freeze after what Elijah just said. In a horror, possibly discussed.
After all that, yeah.
I'll cut her free.
I love it. Everything was working just fine until. What do you even do at that point? Oh, do we have you?
Everything broke.
You're back?
She's back.
Everything. I ran upstairs. Everything broke.
We had just introduced for the August 11th episode, and we introduced our guest Shanna Upsall, the chairwoman of 2DCon. Shanna, welcome to the show.
Hello,
It's good to have you back.
See me?
Yeah,
we
see
can.
you. Yep.
Oh, good, because I can't see anyone else now. I don't know why.
Oh, you gotta tap on your face, maybe. Discord sometimes it tries to be like, oh, obviously you just want to focus on yourself.
Yeah, that's totally. I have no idea. Oh dear
Uh,
God! Now I'm showing.
Oh.
Not going. Joe is trying to. No, Joe is trying to. No. Trying to make my computer work now, because apparently I don't know what's gonna happen if I try and go back downstairs.
Oh, fun.
Oh.
Okay. I gotta say, guys, just for the record, that during the whole sound check, that whole 45 minutes that we had going into the start of the show, everything worked fine. Everything worked
it was
fine.
amazing. We had some awesome lighting going on, like phenomenal. And this is the beauty of live podcasting,
Right.
is that
That's the most
sometimes,
ridiculous thing ever.
yeah.
Right. While we're waiting for a computer to come up, Shanna, do you want to do a quick rundown of who you are and who you represent?
Sure, I can. I'm Shanna Ops. I am the chairwoman of 2DCon, and I'm trying not to trip on puppies right now, but that's what I do. I started it or helped start it with 3 or 4 other individuals, and yeah, that's it. I run the show there.
Fantastic. Fun question. I suspect I know what the answer is because I know how busy you are, but have there been any games you've played recently?
The answer to that is absolutely not. The last game that I played was actually Kingdom Hearts 1 in the spring, and the only reason that I beat it finally is because my child helped me.
Hey,
This
you know,
is why people have kids, right?
yeah, well, yeah,
Yes, they're
absolutely.
perfect for grinding.
Well,
Yeah.
I think. Well, hold on. If it was just this fall, I mean, the spring. I mean, that still is moderately something. It's not like you played it when it first came out, and that's the last thing you played 10 years ago.
Right. I tried to play it forever when it first came out, and I maybe got like 2 worlds in, and then it never happened.
Gotcha. I feel like Dizza, you could probably help contribute to some Kingdom Hearts discussion. I feel like you might know a thing or two about JRPGs. Just
Oh yeah, it happens every once in a while. Yeah, I have to say, with the original Kingdom Hearts, I think it started off really slow to begin with, and it's so difficult when you have a slow start. And this is a story with every RPG known to man. Just wait 20 hours. It's gonna be amazing after the first 20. I know. Just push through it. You're gonna be okay. Like Kingdom Hearts, I think, because of how much material there is over time, like I feel like you can even play the entirety of the original Kingdom Hearts and still have people like, oh no, it's gonna get better. Just you wait. So
yeah, no, I feel like there's always gonna be people that try to defend the game because it's of stuff like that, but I mean,
and it is amazing.
I
Don't get me wrong.
The question is, as you've beat it, did you at least enjoy it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've gone through the main series, and I've done a couple of the side games like Chain of Memories. I played a little bit of Dream Drop Distance.
Mhm.
That's one that I could never really get myself all the way through. But I really need to get back into Kingdom Hearts 3. There's some DLC that they've got planned out. I don't know how much of it's actually released yet, but there are a couple of big stories that are kind of still sitting out there.
Sure. We'll wait for her to come back on that. And we'll ask her how it was for her as having come back and played it as she did. While we wait for her to come back. Oh,
I tried to flip to the computer, but it wouldn't let me video here and sound there.
Yeah, it gets
Discord
fussy like that. Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're just stuck
Or
We'll
something.
make the most of it.
winging it.
Well, that or we could try to figure out more during our break at some point, because we do have a break at some point during the show. So we'll see what happens. So
Okay. It won't let me.
we were asking for you too, is how was the game for you, having beat it only just recently, and considering the reputation that Kingdom Hearts has as mini games, very popular, etc., etc.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I'm a huge Disney person, so it was definitely on my, to play list in general. But the oh my god, I'm gonna try and move back downstairs and we'll see what happens. I don't know. You guys are just getting the full tour of my house. This is great. So arcade machines like everywhere, so it's just kind of fun.
Ooh.
I think playing it, my son James, that was actually like the funnest. He had started playing it, and I had no idea. Then, he one day and was like, "I'm on the," and I was like, I didn't even get to Tarzan, so I think maybe I was only one level in ever. But so experiencing that, and we kind of flip-flop bosses. That was actually probably way more fun for me to play with him than to play on my own.
Oh, sure. It was a family experience, and that totally works out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, Joe was playing Kingdom Hearts 3, so
spoilers. And guys, Joe, just to clarify, is another one of the founding members of 2DCon, was a former chairman and spouse of Shanna here. So
not former spouse. Though.
No, not former spouse. No. Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is a
down
word
from the chairman position. Yeah.
Right.
Oh
dear. Well, Shanna, again, welcome to the show. We'll go ahead and keep making our rounds here, and welcome Mr. Unabridged himself, the Unabridged Gamer Elijah. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am. It has been a weird day. It has been a very weird day.
For you, never. You.
But I also had garbage juice thrown in my face, so that was fine. Yeah, it's been a very up and down kind of day. That's the short version of just how crazy today has been. But I have the remarkable thing to report. I finally played games again. And good golly, it has felt amazing. I got to try out Streets of Rogue, which is kind of like a CRPG. But cooperative. Yeah, it is hilarious. I was playing a bit with Hidden Object Guru. He and I were playing that and Morphe's Law. Both of them are just a riotous time when you're having voice chat with someone else. It's insane. I've dealt with vampire hillbillies. There were cannibals having a turf war with the mafia. There were gorillas that we freed from the secret lab. And the thing is, this is some of the more normal stuff that happens in Streets of Rogue. It is
wow,
such a tiny built game to a point. Morphe's Law is also nice. It's a really great set of design decisions. Seriously, if you are hoping to be a game designer, or if you are, play it. it's fantastic, and it does have bot support for some of the. The only problem is there's not a lot of feedback to the weapons, so as a result, it's like, am I doing damage? Am I affecting things? That part is more just like, eh. But it still is a really neat thing. Like, you can essentially have, when your health is being taken, your mass is also being taken. So the best players become huge and easy to hit targets, whereas the players who aren't doing as well become insanely hard to hit and get additional navigational abilities that other players wouldn't have. You can be firing yourself out of cannons or going through entire. It's like Alice in Wonderland meets Splatoon, basically. It's a very interesting combination to go for. It originally launched on Switch, but now it's on PC, and it's fun. And the last game on my list of things that I've been playing recently will surprise no one who knows my tastes.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it? It's awful.
No, there's the thing. It's not. And the thing, I'm not alone in this case. I found out I am not the only one.
Okay,
Square
what?
Enix is, and to a very slight extent, Kojima Productions left alive the most recent Front Mission game, despite not having Front Mission in the name.
Oh, yeah. I was actually taking a good look at that for a moment. I have yet to pull the trigger on it, but huge appreciation for Front Mission style and like that universe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to tell you right now. Well, I got to finally pilot a functioning Wanzer after having to sneak around for a fair portion of the game, and it kicks some ass. It seriously kicks some ass. I mean, you can do the whole bursting and everything. But yeah, here's an interesting note. The Metacritic for the PS4 and the PC versions are 37 and 40 respectively out of 100, okay?
Oh, wow.
User scores are 84 and 86 respectively.
So why did it get panned?
I don't. From what I understand, it's because it doesn't look that graphically like advanced. It doesn't look like a current. From what I gather, it's really poorly optimized. Like I actually had to turn it to windowed mode and set it to 1600 by 900 to get it to perform fairly smoothly. But that's with it at ultra. That's with it at ultra. The graphics don't seem to be because of the problem. It's something to do with the world loading because they had to make it scale to you're in a giant mech and also you're a tiny soldier at the same time, and it struggles with that. There are occasional glitches, but not nearly as much as in a lot of the games you'd expect. And if I'm being entirely honest, other than that, it's pretty fine. Like, you can fully rebind controls however you want. I will say that you had to turn the aiming sensitivity all the way up. I'm playing the PC version, so once I turned mouse sensitivity up, it worked fine. People were complaining that you couldn't hit 60 FPS, but I can. It's just called automatic instead of 60 FPS. It just does whatever your frame rate is for your mod instead of making you have to fiddle with a bunch of things. But you can
So,
also choose to lock it at 30.
one quick question on that then, because apparently that's an issue. So how exactly did you measure the frame rates? Did you just use the built-in Steam function, or what functionality did you use to capture that?
I've got GeForce. I've got GeForce
Oh,
going.
GeForce. Okay, so you're using GeForce season. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I've got a fairly good idea about what's going on here. The main issue is that I think it's the autosave system. The autosave is just so strong, it will actually basically pause the game for a few seconds. So if you go into a certain area, you might suddenly, you're dodge rolling to get out of cover, and it just sort of, and now we're done. So if you want something that is perfectly smooth, like Naughty Dog smooth, you're not going to be happy with it. And you also can't play with it like a Far Cry game. It is like, for frame of reference, the casual difficulty setting is what normal is in pretty much every other stealth. But the amazing thing is, it's not just raw stats that get increased the higher difficulty settings you go. They lay out. There's all sorts of different modifiers and scenario switches that actually enhance it. And what's more, it's what it would happen if you combined a Telltale game, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, and Resident Evil 2 Remake. There's so many unique twists to it. You've got 3 protagonists who can actually leave items in item boxes for each other. You've got these very condensed but deep spaces that you can navigate that have different routes depending on what's happened since you were last there. One route might finally be open and no longer on fire, but another one could be blocked off entirely. And I love its dedication to making you feel like you are a lone survivor in an occupied city. You can't just go Rambo and kill everyone. Yes, of course. You're one soldier. You've got an entire invading army with tanks and mechs the size of building. No shit. You have to run and hide. And I've been hearing complaints about the AI being too aware, but really the only times the AI has caught me off guard is that sometimes when you're around a corner, it's not covering you enough and they will detect you. But there are red bars that appear around the screen to indicate when an enemy is getting close. Your AI buddy will constantly let you know if an enemy is getting close. And what's more, you can typically get the drop on them pretty well. There's some really good moves. Like if you actually do a sprint, slide, and then knock them over, you can just take them down with one hit with your crow. That is the weird thing. There's Half-Life and World of Tanks product placement in the game. Like World of Tanks and Half-Life product placement. It's just kind of odd. There's like posters for them around the city and everything. I guess we're pretending that the game is somehow both in like 2012 and 2004. But
hey, you know what? That happens though. That totally happens. That can.
yeah, you know, it just does. Maybe the Nova Slava ratings board just held up Half-Life 2 for that many years. They just pulled a German. But even like in terms of the writing, it's like it is pretentious at times, but that happens with Metal Gear games, so it doesn't surprise me that happened here. And there's some times where the dialogue choices really matter. Like, I'm gonna offer a really quick spoiler here, but it shows you what really the game is about. You very early on during the tutorial, you find your captain. He is clearly injured, and it's very obvious if you leave him, he's gonna die. But then they make it look like there's an option to save him. You can give him one of your precious medkits, and he can actually heal himself, inject it, and he will change. His dialogue actually changes. He'll be like, okay, go find someone to help us. I'm going to recover here. We'll get out of this. And then the main antagonist of the not Leon Kennedy guy shoots him. And there's other things. There's side quests, like there's one where you can talk down a woman from potentially going on a suicide charge or shooting herself. You can make sure that she doesn't snap and so that she gets out alive. You can save people from being shot by firing squads. And that's one of the most beautiful things is objectives are like Dead Rising. If you don't get to somewhere in time, they're dead. Like there's one, just recently I failed to save some fellow soldiers because I was so busy trying to help other survivors get to safety. It's really good stuff. It's really well executed, and so far I'm like 7 hours in. I'm only to chapter 4, and there's like supposed to be like close to 12 chapters. It's been a marvelous time. It's been a really good experience, and really I think this is another case of the internet hate circle jerk, just completely forgetting anything about how games like this on the PS2 generation we used to love, whereas now it's like, I'm not instantly winning. This game is bad. This game might slightly require me to put more effort in. It's bad. And
are you suggesting, hold on, are you suggesting that people have to actually play a game repeatedly or objectives that are similar to learn how to play it to be better at it? Is that what you're suggesting? Is that...
Yes, they might actually...
Wow,
like, nobody wants
that. The nerve.
Nobody wants that.
And the thing is, there's so many ways to approach it once you understand the system. You can craft all sorts of things. So you can set up... at one point, when I was actually going to steal a Wanzer, I set up 4 auto turrets in the alleyway where I right by the save point and everything. So it's like, okay, if they see me and they outnumber me, I can just run like hell back here and they will take out all the infantry while the Wanzer itself will be kept out of the alley because it's too narrow. You can make strategic choices like this. There's even pacifist options. You can use smoke grenades and stuff like that to sneak past the enemy. Just like, there's so many clever things that I typically would expect from a project that would be made by a hybridization of Square Enix and Kojima Productions. And that's it. It's the only game in 2019 that's ever going to have Kojima Productions on the thing. I mean, just come on. It's... I know I'm really being a dead horse, but it's like, I'm impressed as all hell. I'm really curious to see how everything goes. And like I said,
poor
I'm 7
Mr.
hours
Ed.
in. They've still got the third protagonist to introduce. And just, yeah, it's good. If you really liked R2 Make, if you really like Metal Gear Solid 5, give it a whirl at some point. Ignore the haters. I really don't know what their deal is.
Yeah, I think Front Mission has never really gotten a lot of mainstream recognition. And it says a lot that the like the general population reviews are so much higher. I think it's worth that attention. I think it's worth checking it out and seeing. And certainly for those people who are already in the universe of it, like it's already super attractive, but like I know it's going to eventually be a buy for me.
Oh, and let me put it this way. If you are insulted by Front Mission Evolved, you will much prefer this. This has much more of the brutal feeling of the classic ones. This is not Captain Planet level silliness.
I'm waiting for an explanation on Captain Planet in reference to it, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, Front Mission Evolved was like, it's one of the biggest misnomers ever. They took the Front Mission series and they essentially tried to make it play more with the pacing of Call of Duty. They got rid of all the turn-based stuff. I mean, it's not a bad game, but the storytelling is cringeworthily hilarious in all the wrong ways, and yeah, it was not what I think anybody wanted. So as a result, it's like, as its own game, it's fun. But for anyone who was into Front Mission, it was not what they were looking for. I think, considering that this one was one of the main people behind Front Mission had a hand in it, it's a lot more aesthetically, tonally, and everything how you want it to be. It's much more serious. It's got lots of different stuff going on, lots of politics. It's what you want. And yeah, go figure, a game with politics in it. It's almost like you can do that.
I think we talked about games that have politics and the idea of politics and the socio commentary of the times. I mean, we saw that with games like Papers, Please also. And we've brought that up before. We've discussed that at great lengths. You can absolutely do it.
Yeah.
And to say otherwise, it's just a lot of times you get people that will argue, well, you should keep politics out of games. Like, no, you want to keep the politics you don't agree with out of games. There's a difference. If you're able to discuss the matter at hand, no matter what view you have, then it's part of the Discord that you're having, or discourse that you're having. So whatever, go with it, roll with it. Elijah, has there been anything else you've played then?
Actually, yes, come to think of it. I'd almost forgotten it, but it's holding up my camera right now. I finally got to go back to a game that, I believe it or not, I owe someone. I owe someone very dear to me to finish. Brothers in Arms, The Road to Hill 30. Believe it or not, this is actually a game that my grandfather and I bonded over not too long before he passed away. A lot of my games, I understand, the man was just amazing, and no matter what I was playing, he would watch, but it was one of the first ones where it was like, he understood what the hell was happening. It wasn't like, nice old Republic, why are these weird alien things talking to you? This one, it was like, okay, yes, I get this. I'm glad you're playing this. And the thing is, at the time, I was not very good at the game. So I got so bloody close to the end, but I never got to finish it. So I promised him that at some point I would, and this year I'm making good on that promise. I've started over from scratch, playing through it again. It has not aged as gracefully as I hoped it had. But also my skills have improved enough that I'm able to compensate for that for the most part. I don't know why Private Allen is always getting his ass shot to hell, but the man's a master at losing all of his health bar when I tell him to get behind cover. And it's just him. It's just his AI. I don't know why. But so yeah, I've been playing through that a bit, but I'll save any lengthier thoughts because I've already been chewing up the scene for way too damn long.
I was see, the funny thing is, I was actually about ready to put a fellow co-host on blast for using his phone, but then I saw what was put in chat. I'm like, actually, you know what? Never mind. I'll just let it go. All right then. As well as with that said, we will go straight to them. Dizzy G, welcome to the show. How is it going?
Oh, hi. Things are going pretty well. Life has been keeping me extremely busy, but I will say you can't, even in a busy week, go without some gaming. So I have officially completed the main section of Dragon Quest Builders 2. And I'm really excited. They just launched some new material. It's the last free DLC that they're going to offer us here in North America. Asia has already been paying for DLC, so I guess I should kind of be happy I haven't had to pay extra. maybe. It feels weird. But there will be a couple of new pieces of content they'll be sending out soon. And of course, this is gorgeous. I've had a chance to take a look at some of the different worlds in Dragon Quest Builders 2, and they give you this option to visit other locations. And you can even modify stuff in those places, which is super cool. But yet at the same time, everybody's been really chill about like not griefing. I don't know if we're just past that time in Minecraft or what, but I have seen some absolutely amazing pieces of art in the buildings that people have made, and it's inspiring. I might have to have a project or two and see who can be recruited into it, but it's pretty awesome stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me too much at some of the work that could be done. I haven't not actually seen it, but just the idea of it, because I've seen what people have done with Minecraft, and it's not too different in as far as the idea of building large, extravagant things, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of.
I was gonna say. Plus, there's been a resurgence. Minecraft has actually surpassed Fortnite again. It seems like
What?
seeing a pushback. Yeah, apparently it actually managed to at some point surpass it in active players again, and just.
Oh, okay, active players. Okay, that makes.
Yes, but still, what I'm going for here is there seems to have been kind of a slide back towards creative stuff. I mean, there's even that game company, not that game company, the space one for PS4 that I can't apparently think of the name of right now because my brain is completely frying on itself. It just got the Beyond update, and it's going to get Beyond 2.0.
Oh, you're talking about
No Man's Sky. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, after I put it over myself. Yeah, No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
It's just there's been a
Can we talk about that quick?
Creativity.
That update for No Man's Sky. Ooh, that for space games, space exploration games. I was already kind of, since they fixed it, I was already going, all right, that's on my radar now. With all the new updates, it's like, all right, now this is a big red blip on my radar going, play this game. Because it just, it looks so good.
It's tough. It's tough for me because I bought No Man's Sky back when it was pretty cheap and played for a little bit. And even after they had made some admittedly massive updates from the original launch, meh. That's all I feel about it. So it's difficult on that end.
Mm-hmm.
But creation tools are a big thing. Minecraft has done a really good job at adding a whole bunch of different blocks of material to make things happen. But I do think Dragon Quest Builders takes it to the next level. They give you a whole bunch of different tools, some of which being just convenience tools, like, hey, you can make a 4x6 wall, go, in a single click, which is super convenient.
Mm-hmm.
But other things like you can actually take any of the full blocks and chop them into different segments. So you can have different slopes, different angles, and you can make a lot of things that you otherwise wouldn't have. For example, in one of the builds that I saw, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant, they used the chisel to cut, I think it was like pieces of earth. So it was a brown block into what looked like chain links. So they had this giant drawbridge going down, and it was awesome. And chain links don't exist as their own item in the game at all. But the visualization, because they were able to chop away at the main voxel for the block, made it perfect. The only thing that I'm sad about with this is there's a lot of lag in the game, and I've been looking into this a little bit to try to find out what's going on behind it. Apparently, the worst of the lag is in the Switch version, which, in fairness, I think we'd all expect it doesn't have the same processing power that a PS4 would have. But what's interesting about it is that the lag issues that Switch players deal with are in areas where the default island has been chopped up, and like the mountains are pulled out. Mm-hmm. My best theory on it is that the game thinks, hey, you're never going to pull these pieces apart in here, so we're going to try to load just the main material. And then it says, oh, now I have to undo this mountain and then redo it with the other thing that's going on, trying to save some process. But on the other end of things, people who are really making the best stuff are going to be doing that sort of thing.
The very best stuff. No
the
one's
very
ever
best
seen
stuff.
no one's ever seen it like this good. Yeah, right? Is that kind of what we're going? Sorry, it was there. I couldn't help myself.
But yeah, unfortunately, it seems like that very best stuff is really left to the PS4 players, because if you go in on the Switch, it really does turn into what am I looking for? Like a sketch flip book. That's the resolution that you're getting out of it. That's a frame rate you're getting out of it. I don't think you get past like maybe 15 frames if you're lucky in that situation.
Ooh.
It's
I
sad.
need the name of this game sent to me, because those creative games are ones that like we'll pick out on family night and just like pick a game like that to play. So yeah, I need the name of that one for sure.
Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Yep.
Okay.
The original is fantastic as well, but for multiplayer, Dragon Quest Builders 2 is where you want to be.
All right.
So I've had a... Oh, please, go for it.
Elijah, go.
I'm afraid your flipbook thing reminded me of something else that I've actually been playing. I'm serious. I think my brain was trying to repress it from memory. So you know that they had those Transformers games?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you there was one that no one remembers, and it was made by the people who made the Loadout game for free to play on PS4 and on PC?
Oh,
It
no.
also decided to try to combine the Cybertron games with the movie tie-in games, so it is equal parts a midquel to the War for Cybertron and Fall for Cybertron, and also Age of Extinction at the same time.
Oh,
But
dear.
here's the amazing thing, and the only thing I want to mention about it right now, especially if you play it on Wii U, it is a single-player focused game with loot boxes. Seriously, and the thing is, you can't even buy them. They're just literally how the progression system works. It's a game, it's like the one person who decided to have a bold experiment of, what if all character progression was through loot boxes? Some versions have a cooperative mode as well, but like, yeah, the entire thing, it is like every ability is a booster. You're having to slowly find the upgrades to upgrade your weapons, like it's Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. It has been a surreal experience.
I would.
It's lucky it has very good weapons that kick ass, because otherwise it would have nothing.
So as far as the loot box thing's concerned, in regards to that, like it's just level. Like, you can't buy them, right? It's just the level progression. Like you hit a level, you get a box of whatever in it, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of challenges you can get for other boxes.
So wait a second.
Hold on here. What if I were to say that classic NES JRPG games, some of those leveling mechanics were random numbers? Like your leveling could be completely random every single playthrough. It's just now you get a box with fancy animation in that particular situation. So this is a one-off circumstance from most loot box situations, but it's random, just like the classic NES games.
Ooh.
I feel like you're giving the system a lot more credit than it's owed. Like a lot more. I'm serious here. When I actually I told you about this in the chat. I Rise of the Darkspark, and yes, that's seriously its name. Someone chose that name with a straight face. That's the name we're going with.
Sparks are dark. Oh, shiza. Okay.
It is a stunning experience. But the thing is, it's like fast food. I know it's bad for me. I know there's other things I could, I've spent my money on an experience, but it's somehow weirdly enjoyable, despite the fact that occasionally the frame rate dips to the point that I could probably count the frames on screen. And the best thing I can tell is that there's just many enemies. It's also weirdly an Xbox One collector's item. Xbox One copies go for like $50.
Because nobody has them.
Wii U, PS3, dirt cheap.
Great.
Xbox One, cost through the roof.
Huh?
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's my bonus one.
Nice.
I'm still just floored by the idea that the mechanic that drives people with so much energy and so much passion that they're willing to throw hundreds of dollars in is offered as a general system with no alternate means other than you're just going to get a random stat. Have fun. Well, either missed opportunity or you're surprisingly better than you should be.
Yeah.
Depending on how you want to look at
it. That's a flip of the coin on how you want to position that, isn't it?
Yeah. I do have one more for you.
Okay.
And I've been playing a lot of games offline.
Okay.
Like? Particularly, I've got a group of people that catch up. I'll say about once every week. We've been on an off week, or we're going on to an off week here. But we have been exploring Pandemic Legacy.
Oh, nice. Okay. Some tabletop. I can get behind this.
Really wonderful tabletop game, and obviously we're not a tabletop group, so I'm not going to say too much and get into real depth on it. But there is something to be said for a game that changes as a result of the actions that you take, where entire elements of the game change significantly. And that's the way that Pandemic Legacy works. The standard version of it is that you just go and try to cure and eradicate all of the viruses that are in the world, and you're a research team, and you all have like different individual skills. It's a really nice cooperative game.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those rare instances where you're not trying to beat the other players on the table. You're trying to work with the other players on the table to beat the game. And I feel like that asymmetrical type of gameplay in board games is just sparse. Like it's not that common, and it's really cool to see it in the. We have a friend that hosts a game night here in Minneapolis. He does it like once a month. It's been a while since we've done Pandemic there, but he's done it before, and it's such an interesting game and thought-provoking game. It's a lot of fun.
The best part with Pandemic Legacy is that as you progress, as you play the game more, you have so many different challenges that come up, and you'll deal with some real struggles that are downright impossible, and then you'll get help. And, especially in the legacy system, you'll have permanent changes that you can't undo, no matter how much you wish you could.
Yep.
And the game is designed to help balance for those situations. So, like, if you get a real bad beat, and something happens on the board that is just absolutely awful, you'll probably lose the next few games. But like, if you lose 4 games in a row, you'll get special abilities and cards that'll help you at least pick up the next one. Hey, pity cards. And stuff like that. So it's really well balanced, and it's cool to see that in an offline form, because very often the only time we see something like that is in something that has the opportunity for more complexity to make the change. And that's where video games are. So it was a really nice alternative to form. I think that takes from the elements of video games pretty well. And we're about halfway through the campaign. It's supposed to last 12 calendar months. And that can be anywhere from 12 to 24 games, depending on how well you do. We're doing okay. We're not great.
As it is, as you learn the game more and more, right? I mean, that makes perfect sense.
So yeah, that's what I've been playing. What have you been up to, Mish?
Well, where do I start? I have been playing a lot more of DRP. I don't know. Was I promoted last time I talked on the show? I don't remember. I'm no longer Proby or in training. My main character in the GTRP for the crew RP is officially rank of officer, so I play a cop on a GTRP. I've been doing a lot of that.
Do you have a specific beat that you follow every day?
Not in particular. I stay in the city a lot when I do my work. Jean in particular is one of those officers that wants to try to actually get along with the community and know the people that she's serving, instead of just hauling off to jail all the time. She wants to, like, we have a couple reoccurring, and there's a detective that's played by W. Grades that I will at least talk to these people like, I thought you were turning over a leaf again, or whatever. He does talking to a further degree, but I love his mentality on it, and I think that's a great way to go about doing that, because the players themselves, like if you have a positive interaction, even if it's just character interaction, if you have positive interactions with other characters, you're more willing to maybe consider engaging in further RP in a character. For this, as opposed to, wow, that character was a dick, I hope I never run into him again, you know. So I completely have a different mentality on it, and that's how I've been rolling there.
This just sounds like real life advice. Go have positive interactions with real people.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right? That's exactly what it is. It's a real life concept that I'm just applying to my roleplay. But you know, you get people that are like, well, I got to be this hard ass that applies to blah blah blah. I'm like, no, you don't. You know, like I'll pull people over and I'll just be like, look, I don't want to do the paperwork. Don't do this again. You know, but because I had that interaction, of course, there's a chance that they'll laugh at that. That's a positive interaction. So I aim for that. In addition to that, of course, we had Morally Dangerous, which I was doing more space exploration. We saw lots of cool stuff. I saw a brown, what was it called? Not a Y star, but was it a Y class star? It's like the idea of what a brown, like you guys know what a brown dwarf is, right? Please tell me you understand what a brown dwarf is.
Please enlighten me.
A brown dwarf is a small star. It's a very tiny type star, right? And it's a very cool one, so it doesn't emit a lot of light and it's not as hot as other stars. Okay. Yeah, so I'm referring to a brown dwarf star. We found a star that instead of a dwarf size star, it is a supergiant size star. So like the size of, not quite the size of Rigel, but fairly large. And I don't know if I'm talking way over your head when I mention star names like that, but
yeah. It's exactly way over Rigel. Totally. Like Rigel's nothing in comparison.
Yeah, no, I know what I'm talking about. Rigel is considered a supergiant star. It's a really large one. In fact, if you were to go outside tonight, assuming that you're not in the city and there's no clouds in the sky, you could probably easily see Rigel with just your eye. You don't need assistance seeing that particular star. Okay. We found a brown one. So it doesn't emit a lot of light. It's really cool, but instead of a dwarf-sized star, it's a supergiant star, which was it's unique. It's incredibly unique. In the 2 weeks of like in-game gameplay, so that's not the 2 weeks I've been playing, but 2 weeks of in-game time play, I've not seen one. I've seen a lot of different other type of classes. I've seen Taurid stars. I've seen S-class stars. I have seen neutron stars, white dwarfs, white supergiants, blue stars, whatever. Not those type. I've not seen this yet. And I have a regular that comes into my channel, and as I'm doing my tours, he's like, hey, go to this one. It's got some great views. And he has been fantastic at his recommendations. So I'm going back out on further exploration, and we're going to be doing more of that in the future. So that's that. I've also been doing some Warframe.
All right.
Yeah, that's I could see where that game could be a black hole of time sinkiness. Holy cow. It's the pace of the game. I talked about it before. The pace at which you move, and I'm not talking like how fast the story goes. I'm talking about in gameplay movement.
It's the physical movement.
Yeah, it's so fluid and it works so well. Once you start figuring out how to do things properly, it helps a bit. So I streamed it on Wednesday this past week. And I had a Warframe partner streamer that was beyond ecstatic that I was checking it out and came into my chat. And like I told her about it, she came in, hung out for a while, and it's like, hey, if you do this is how you can do this. And was just giving me tips and whatnot. And she was one of those that had the mentality that you have to do it and learn how to do it, but by providing support, you're not hitting a wall with your face in the learning process, which I love that mentality. And it's how I get to appreciate games a lot more. It's how I got sunk into Elite as well. So Yeah. So will I be playing more Warframe? If you were to, based on my experience, if you were to ask, are you going to play more of it? Yes. So
if it wasn't a hint already,
right,
the addiction is going.
So it was brought up by the subscriber chat in my Discord, and then Crafty, the Unabridged Gamer, and ESP were the ones that were the final do it. So.
Oh my gosh! I like I've said before, I played the game back when it was in closed beta. I remember seeing back then, this thing has real potential, and lots of people didn't believe. Most of us playing the closed beta, they're like, "What? No, you're just in spaceships, and it's not got everything polished to a mirror sheen." It's like now, it's like, by the way, Warframe. And it's kind of a thing, and I love that. It's a studio that learned and is so morally upright too. They will do the right thing, and they're extremely talented. Nobody remembers it, but they were part of the reason that Unreal and Unreal Tournament exist. So, seriously, these are some very masterful designers.
Well, and the thing is at first there were things that had to be worked out. I remember playing the game early on because a certain other influencer was a big supporter of Warframe. And it was just incredibly difficult. I was just like, no, I'm good. I had another account. So to say I was brand new would be untrue. But the things that I recall and how to do things, I didn't. So it was as near as never played as the fact that it was so long and so little time played that it didn't really count, And then I suppose the last thing I played, since Mr. Dizza here decided to go offline and mention the tabletop, we did more D&D. I was at my D&D campaign last night. I had something that decided it was going to try to hit me with a fire flame, a fire strike of some degree, and I retaliated with a disintegrate and hit it for 100. That was my first disintegrate that went over 100 on my roll. I was pretty happy about that. Yes. So more D&D. I always enjoy that. Someday, I keep saying that, but someday we may see a noob RPG.
We'll find out.
As I'm drinking, wishing that was like whiskey or something. As I'm doing that.
You can imagine.
So okay, this question did come up in chat. I know we don't always look at chat and oh yes this, but it's a good question. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer it. Guild Wars compared to Warframe, because there's no secret I play a lot of Guild Wars. I think they're two completely different games. I do love that one of the end games is Fashion Wars and Fashion Frame. I do love that. The reason I love that is because it's a large customization of your characters, right? So if you're talking about Fashion Wars 2, yeah, I'm always down for that. Warframe, I do like that. I have to get more progress into the game before I can say this absolutely. But yeah, no. If you were to say one or the other, I can't say one or the other. I mean, I have so many hours in Guild Wars 2 to answer that question. I just can't say that. Plus, with that game, I would consider myself a connoisseur of its lore, so that doesn't help matters either.
Yeah, it's definitely an apples to oranges thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, it kind of is. So I think with that kind of covers everything that we've been playing. We do have things to actually talk about besides what we've been playing.
Wait, there's been news?
There's actually news this time, which is better than what we had 2 weeks ago when we're like, what the hell has happened? Nothing's happened, right?
There's been so much.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, there were if you're in the board gaming scene, there was Gen Con. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of news coming out of that because we didn't look into that per se, because we do a lot more video gaming. But with video games and the topic that we talked about loot boxes earlier. There has been some changes in an agreement that has been recently announced in regards to loot boxes. In particular, publishers are agreeing to share loot box stats and or their odds.
I like this. I like this a lot.
Yeah,
I think the more transparency, the better.
sure. Mr. Unabridged, what else do we know about this recent agreement and this news in this?
Well, one thing that's noteworthy that not all publishers have agreed to that. A fair number of them have, but as I understand, is most notably Riot and Epic have not so far agreed to it yet, and there's a couple of ones like Capcom do a fair bit of DLC and stuff like that. Weirdly, Konami was on board with it, as I understand it, which Konami's doing this weird thing now where they seem slowly kind of like halfway waltzing back into the gaming scene, and I don't understand what their calls are being made, but they've at least not been dickish ones, so I'll take that. But the most notable ones there are EA and Activision because both have been leaning into it heavily. Although Activision doesn't seem to understand that people hate loot boxes because Black Ops 4 keeps getting worse with them to the point that their most recent thing they introduced apparently pissed off the entire community and they're trying to sell it as it being this great new addition. I don't know. I don't understand how they don't get that people are furious at them. It's just they've got to have they have a money for it. They have a money for it that all the executives are hiding in. They're just being, whenever anyone's like, the players are threatening to not buy that, there's $100 in your face, go away. But as terms of what this actually means, it's a step of the ESA actually doing something, which, other than, leaking journalists, info and stuff like that, finally they're doing something that might be useful. Eventually getting around to doing something productive.
The ESA doing something useful? What? That's...
I just...
No.
I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like it's going to be enough. Like, it will help, and it's going to influence things, and it's eye-opening that apparently, but also not surprising, that sponsors are getting better odds for this sort of thing.
Oh, of course.
Okay, let's take a second. Sponsors are getting better odds to loot boxes than regular players. Let's repeat that again. Sponsors, the people who are advertising the game, show a stronger likelihood of actually getting all of those epic items that you want to get, but you can't get them as easily as they do. Ah, that's an amazing surprise mechanic. I like that surprise mechanic.
I see what you did there. Yeah. That in and of itself I think is an issue. But honestly, here's the thing. They were on the edge of the abyss looking at regulation as far as how loot boxes were handled and addressed, right? So to try to help push themselves away from that edge a little bit, they had to do something. Really, a lot of these publishers releasing the likelihood, the statistics and whatnot, I think speaks volumes about how much they're willing to try to save this mechanic to make it continue to exist in gaming. Even if it means like, all right, yeah, you have a 1 to 20 odds, or you have a 1 to 38 odds, or whatever it is of getting an epic item or a rare item. They do that because they can go back now to oversight and go, but we make it clear. We make it clear on how likely it is that you'll get these items. Never mind how the animation and the way it's designed is to help trigger endorphins and to make people want to buy more. And if you face gambling addiction, like, you are more susceptible to want to buy these boxes. And honestly, I was gonna say, honestly enough, if assuming that tech is working fine, another person I would love to hear about loot boxes about and like the impact that it has is, say, one who has little one that lives with them because they are a parental unit. But I don't know if she is here, I think.
The video's frozen, but there's an attempt. Come on, work for us, internet.
She's been frozen in carbonite.
Okay, I will cut her out again. See, the second I pulled it out, it suddenly started working. You need to wave it more.
No.
There we go.
Mike's on
I
the
hear
call.
her.
Are we good?
Yes, we
Yes.
hear you.
I could hear everything that you guys were saying. It just wasn't in. I don't know. I'm so sorry for this whole mess, but it's my understanding that the question is you wanted to hear my take on loot boxes as someone who has a small impressionable mind in the house.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
See, I could hear everything, and I thought I was responding, but you guys couldn't hear me. So, loot boxes. They're a hard no in this house as a whole. Literally no one uses them, and I was actually going to ask, but then I realized you guys couldn't hear me. As somebody who I've never actually played a game that had purchasable loot boxes, and I'm curious, do those games ever have like free ones? You know, you get the first one free. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So,
And you
here's
can
the-
you can earn them over time the very
Yeah.
slow way. You can grind your way to.
Right. Okay. So that was my big question because the small one is not really big on Fortnite, but has friends who are. So like he had enough coins that he had earned just from normal playing to purchase a new skin and a new dance and whatever, and that's fine. He earned that. He can spend it. We're not going to spend real people money on it, but um but I think the stats thing alone is going to be massive because I was thinking back to like the one game that I was infatuated with when you guys were talking about Guild Wars is World of Warcraft. I was very deep in World of Warcraft, and all of these like epic items and having to work for them and the stats, like that was all public knowledge before you ever went to any boss ever. Even from day one vanilla, I knew how hard it was going to be, and I knew I only had one chance a day, but I never had to pay extra for it.
Mhm.
So I hate this like with a passion as an old school gamer, as a parent who, you know, your kid doesn't stand a chance against some of the other kids, and it's not really it's I mean, you don't want to say that, but it's not, it's more on principle at this point than it is on lack of funds. I could spend money on it for him, but that is the worst parenting move ever, in my opinion. And there have been plenty of times where like he's received a Nintendo gift card or a Switch gift card for his birthday. And my rule is if it is yours, you can spend it how you want. You know, you have autonomy on your money. It's your whatever you're going to do with it. And I think he maybe purchased a season pass once, but he's learned on his own how not worth it is because then he didn't get to purchase the game that he wants. So it's interesting to me that the 9-year-old in the house already understands that these things are not worth it and it's fleeting. And you got that one good item, and 6 weeks from now it's worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I'm really lucky in my opinion, but I mean that's also like a pat on the back parenting, but it's just not a thing that we have in this house, which is actually like fantastic because I don't want to have the argument about it, and I don't want to watch my money just go away.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate them. Bottom line.
Fair enough. So
It
for
does.
I gotta say a couple things. One, there is a support group for those of us that have were sucked into the black hole of World of Warcraft. I think a few of us can relate to that.
I haven't played in so long. I want to though.
They find appealing ways to get you in. Classic.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that Classic was coming back. Yeah, continue.
Sure. I think, yeah, based on what you're saying, you kind of did hit it lucky in that regard because you hear these horror stories, especially on mobile platforms, of this person that gets their $1,000 cell phone bill because their kid racked up, you know, credit card or
Right.
a phone bill with like in-game purchases that you billed to the phone company.
Oh, can I tell like a really funny story? I don't know why, but this is the one time that James purchased something on a mobile phone, on a mobile app. on accident was actually the what is it called? Like the Sackboy Runner that was on mobile.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you guys remember this? Okay, it was a while ago. He was like 4. And Joe had a bunch of baubles, I think is what they were, that you got to spend in the game on outfits and whatnot. And James went to buy one, and it was like the generic, oh, you don't have enough baubles. And Joe was very new to letting a small child have his phone, so he didn't have a lock on it. So he spent $10. That was it, $10.
Oh.
And then he spent all the baubles that he acquired. And Joe was like, well, I'm not even that mad about the $10. I'm mad he didn't purchase anything worthwhile. But that was it. And honestly, I can honestly say he's never purchased something without permission since then. But I think it's because I'm scary.
I mean, I can see that. I can see that.
Mhm.
With the, yeah. So I think it's interesting you bring up that the statistic part too. That is really interesting. I don't know if that's going to help any cases though, because like in your case, you're talking about how it's just a no go. Like there's no
Right.
starting point with loot boxes at all. In the case of your son, and maybe that's just again. And I know we've talked about it too. It's like it's just we have to go no go on this. Like, look, we understand that you're putting these stats out here, but still you're exploiting things that are that can impact vulnerable people. Now I think one of the articles I read about this was talking about the cost of games, the fact that the cost of a full price game has been $60 for a long time, even though inflation has changed quite a bit.
Right.
So with that in mind, how do we does that change any opinions on loot boxes, or are there better ways to go about trying to fill that gap that's been lost over time to inflation?
Pretty much
I don't have a problem paying more for a game. And I'd rather see all these items built into it with various quest lines or objectives. I don't mind paying more for the quality content. We always try to divide it by how many hours of play that we have in the game. And I mean, if all these little weird loot box prizes were built in, we're talking exponentially more hours for potentially not that much more work. But I don't mind paying $80, $100 for a game as long as I get my money's worth out of it.
See, speaking as someone who's been poor all his life, I don't want to see games go to $100 because if it was kid me in this current climate,
That's
I
true.
would just end up not playing anything that wasn't Roblox. But I do actually think that a certain amount of DLC and stuff like that is perfectly fine and it's a matter of how it's presented. We were actually talking about this last time I think I was on with like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and stuff like that, where they went a bit ham on regard pushing it. But the thing is, I don't actually mind the idea of like there being a pass for additional content, or if someone's in a hurry, they can just buy their way ahead. Because clearly, when a game doesn't, like Left Alive, people will just complain and moan on and on about not being able to get ahead faster. So honestly, it's sort of like I'm pretty much in game for almost anything that isn't loot boxes. Like realistically, it isn't healthy. I do think that in the case of multiplayer games, splitting up your player base by charging for the map packs and stuff like that doesn't work. But I'm perfectly happy to directly buy a skin for a character I like. There was a point when I was playing Overwatch and actually having fun with Overwatch before they ruined it, when I would have gladly put down like $4 for a Symmetra skin because I just played her so much and enjoyed just decking her out so much that I would have been fine with that. And that's the thing is also it needs to not be these massive purchases that they're trying to get. They're trying to get all sorts of huge chunks of money, whereas a little bit, a tiny bit. I mean, microtransactions have been turned into a poison word because of publishers, but there's no reason we couldn't use that to an actually constructive extent.
Sure.
Because yes,
Right.
budgets are just dangerously high, and even smaller developers are struggling trying to figure out how to do things, and it's been financially proven that supporting a game after launch is a risky endeavor. It's just genuinely not that well advised. That's why, like, it's very unique that the Mass Effect series had lots of DLC after launch, because most games where it's like, yeah, you get one extra DLC mission that maybe lasts 2 hours and that's it. The reason that happened is because you usually see even less purchases than you do for the original game. It's just not good business sense, but there's at least some player base who will go for it. So, yeah, I don't want loot boxes to be a thing. I'd be very happy to see them go away, because I remember back when they first started with Mass Effect 3 and I got so many shotguns that I never used.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. It's just not good for progression. It's just not. It's much better, I think, to have resources to acquire, and grinding is fine. There are people who like to grind. You can do that to a healthy extent.
Sure.
It's about doing all of these things that we've already worked out in moderation, i.e., don't do it the Activision way, and then it'll all be fine.
Right. I think it's especially telling that one of the companies that's in big agreement with the full disclosure is Wizards of the Coast. If anybody knows a pay-to-play game, it's Wizards.
Think about with Wizards of the Coast. I'm assuming you're talking about Magic the Gathering. Is that there's no barrier of entry. You buy a deck, and you're in. You just continue to build on it from there.
Yes and no, because when you start getting into competition, I mean, can you play friendly games that way? Absolutely, 100%. Can you genuinely have fun and find really cool ways to play with the system? Yes. But if you want to go in
Black Lotus deck and you're golden.
Mm-hmm. You could do that, yeah.
Well, I mean, you won't be able to feed your family, but you're gonna win that tournament.
I mean, Black Lotus is only $10,000 these days. It's no big deal.
Only.
No
big deal, guys. Yeah. Finance that.
See, I remember when it was only a $400 card. Only.
Should have gotten into that. Should have gotten into that investment.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, I mean, the things that I have enjoyed most about Magic the Gathering, and like the few times that I've gotten in to say, you know what, I'm going to go in and play, are sealed deck tournaments. Or situations where there's even investment and everybody's playing on a flat ground. That's the one time when I enjoy it, because it really does at that point boil down to strategy. Other games, so with Magic the Gathering, we've had this expectation for a long time. Mechanically, we know that card collecting is a big part to it. There's been a trading mechanism in the real life with money for a long time. But these other games that are coming out hide that scenario so effectively that a lot of people don't know going into their initial investment in a game what they're actually going to be paying for.
Okay, so not to interrupt too much, I get where you're going with this, right? But with digital games, those statistics, those odds can be changed depending on the circumstances. Like, if you were to go back and find a sealed alpha deck or a sealed alpha pack or beta deck and pack from Magic the Gathering from 1993, your odds of getting a Black Lotus today are the same odds that you would have gotten 26 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a false equivalency as far as what you're going with. I get where you're going, right? Because Lord knows you can dump a ton of money into Magic the Gathering. I understand that.
Really? How would you have any experience with that?
Owning over 10,000 Magic cards, you know a thing or two about how much money can dump into a game, right? But the odds never changed with those packs. If suddenly, let's say you were playing Overwatch and there was suddenly a skin that was an uncommon skin, not a common but an uncommon one, but it's really, really popular and people really, really wanted that particular skin, they could change it. They could make it a legendary skin and change the odds on it because it was suddenly popular. They could do that. Not it's just a change to the code.
Yeah, and I think it's rarity is a different thing. Like rarity doesn't automatically win you stuff in Magic the Gathering. That is a really good point. You don't just have to have the most expensive deck, and yay, you get everything. There is real strategy that's involved in that, and maybe that's what makes it worse in this circumstance. Is that I feel like in a lot of loot box situations, that it is the person with the most money, especially in like casual games. I think we're seeing in the industry with any games that have major competitive play, like that falls off. But even in that casual element, like there's so many different games that loot boxes are just flat out, no, you win.
Okay.
I think that's a real dilemma. And giving the percentages helps to a certain extent. And I think those companies are going to get their legitimacy as so much as to say, well, gosh, look at Magic the Gathering over here. They've been doing this for years. You guys haven't said anything about this. This can't be wrong.
Yeah, see,
but I think those differences are going to make it different.
And that's why I was trying to argue the false equivalency with Magic and that. I see where that could be a potential, but I feel like that's a case of apples and oranges. I mean, if you want to do that, then why not throw baseball cards in there?
Oh, I can actually throw in something different that I think that it might be off the table right now, but still is also kind of another fascinating example. Does anyone know about the X-Wing miniatures game? There we go. Okay, excellent. All right, so you get, because like those you have to pay through the nose to acquire. I know friends who have had to slowly piece together very small fleets for engagements and stuff like that. But the thing is, I'm not upset at X-Wing miniatures.
No.
I've actually personally been very averse to most collectible trading card games in general because I dislike them the same way I actually dislike loot boxes. It's very much a thing. I know they're not equivalent, but it's the same sort of thing, and I'm just not super keen on it. But
sure,
actually knowing that I'm getting a good, that I'm getting a product, like that was part of the reason that I was actually into Disney Infinity and stuff like that. Is like I know I'm going to get something, and it's going to tangibly be here. And I feel like that's something that we never really worked out with DLC. Like we sometimes had it happen, but what it should actually be what it should cost.
Don't
what
worry,
sort of
words are
content
hard.
should be offered. What sort of thing you should experience from it. We never figured that out. We just eventually jumped into season passes because we wanted to get as much money as humanly possible. And like once again, a season pass isn't a terrible option, but once we just all of these things keep getting played with, but never figured out. We need
On
to
that note,
actually
Disney Infinity and Lego Dimensions or the shit. Like they're so good.
Oh yes.
We have all of them for both.
Nice.
Respect.
Nice. I suppose with that topic, do we have anything else to add, or is again another one of those things that we're gonna have to stick a pin in because it's a developing story as we go here? Like this whole loot box 2019 has been developing.
Let's see how Belgium feels about it. I feel like they're the bellwether.
Yes, I think that's a fair statement. I think that is very fair. The next thing that I don't know. We could go into the next topic, or we're about at the halfway point for the show anyway. Do we want to go ahead and take a break?
I may be thirsty. Yes.
All right. That I think is a sign that we will go ahead and take a break. So this is everyone's chance to get up, move around, stretch, whatever. Grab a snack, grab a drink.
Fill your Newbcast podcast cups over here.
That's right. Which you too can.
Elephant cups.
Which you too can purchase.
Cup yet.
But yeah,
Not
go ahead.
Shell.
No, you can buy the Newbcast mugs. You can do that. Go do that. We'll get back. We have some more subjects, and of course, we'll be talking at great lengths about an upcoming convention as well. Of course, if you are listening to this on iTunes or on YouTube, you'll probably hear us all in a few seconds. Everyone else, thank you for being here. We'll see you in a short bit. You son of a bitch.
You know, just because you're behind a book doesn't mean that we don't know you're doing it alone.
You
Yep.
can't see my mouth moving. I'm like the guy in the Tim Allen show. You never know if I'm actually saying anything.
You
Do I
son
even
of a...
have a face, Minnie?
Everyone, welcome
Oh,
back
yes,
to the
I do.
Newbcast podcast. Yeah, these are what happen when you have bright lights on and you have a headache. So this is how you resolve that problem.
You turn into Sony.
Yes, you've turned into Sony.
You can take the blue pill or the red pill. The red pill will return you to your life as you know it. Nothing has changed. The blue pill, we'll just see how far down the rabbit hole you go.
So long as it gets me Puppeteer 2, fine.
Gosh.
I mean, all of a sudden you have 47 PlayStation Move controllers and...
Shiza. So... Shall we discuss the thing that our guest knows a thing or two about quite a bit? In fact, she in fact would probably talk circles around us on this particular topic. Let's talk about 2DCon. 2DCon is a convention that's coming up in 2 weeks, but Shanna, being the chairwoman of the convention, I suspect you could tell us a lot more about what 2DCon is, what it represents, and everything else about it.
Or my voice thing won't even work and I won't be able to say anything.
I have good news for you.
What's
That scenario is in an alternate universe.
Yes.
Oh, yay. So, 2DCon, the generic tagline being Minnesota's largest gaming event. Something that we don't necessarily throw out there as much as we should is that it is ran for charity and 100% volunteer based. This is its 4th year, so it's actually pretty new in terms of conventions, and specifically some Minnesota-based conventions go, others being 20 plus years old at this point.
Mhm.
So we managed to break into the scene in Minnesota, and we struck a nerve with something that was severely lacking in the Midwest specifically. And as I've grown more in this community, I've noticed like a lot of these events are around the coast, and we do actually have quite a few gaming events in the Midwest, but they're more very competitive and professional level events. You got your Evo, you got your CEO, you got Combo Breaker, but there isn't the everyday gamer, and that's what we are. We are tournaments, but we're for everybody. We want literal Joe and kids to be able to show up and have the absolute time of their life, and we want competitive, individual A to be able to show up and have a fun match. And I think so far we've accomplished that, but we're still pretty new and we're just beginning to scale to these larger things.
Yeah.
So I've just got to ask, because you've gone from literally this convention not existing to in 4 years becoming such a big event that the community knows about it. Like, I hear about it independent of my direct connections out to the Midwest, and here I am on the East Coast. Like,
Oh.
what do you think has brought your convention up and made such a big difference? So much so that, people are asking, hey, am I going to Minnesota?
I want to say it's the atmosphere of the event itself. We don't actually pay to advertise at all. Anything that we do is word of mouth or by trade. We actually we've had I don't know, I'm trying to like jump all over because now that I'm not on my computer I don't have any notes. But I think it's amazing. I can't actually give you a reason why. That type of reality just always baffles me. And I actually think like how humble we are about the event kind of ties into it. Like that's kind of sounds like an oxymoron. Like I'm complimenting ourselves on being humble, but but I do think that's kind of how it plays into like I've been to many events where like you don't actually know and or see the person that puts it on. And meanwhile, I'm out there introducing myself to as many people as possible and trying to find out what they're enjoying, what they're not enjoying, and making sure that they know that I'm who I am, so that they know they're not just talking to another person. And I've been to many events, even in Minnesota, where I'm like, I couldn't even tell you their name. They don't come to the show floor. You won't see them. Um, and I want to continue to have that, like, that homegrown feel, um, as we continue to grow. I know actually I spent my day making gift baskets for our artists and vendors, and it's something that I've done since the beginning when we had like 5, and now I have 67. And like I'm still gonna keep doing it, and they all include like a handwritten note from me. But so it's those little touches that I think are really helping us to grow and our attention to detail. Um, a big thing that separates us is that we're not new to the convention world in general, and we're
Hmm.
not in it to make money. So Joe has been working at conventions since he was like 14. Um, and as we mentioned earlier, he's one of the other founding members. I am actually really new. I've only been in the convention scene for like 5 years, but I have a passion for giving back to the community. So when we decided this was going to be 100% for charity, I was obviously fully invested.
Hmm.
Um, and we talk about how we don't make money, but Joe and I have probably sunk in over 10,000 over the course of 5 years. That first year, like getting ready for the event.
Hmm.
Your face is so great. Yeah, like we've donated so much to make sure that it succeeds. This is actually the very first year that we have not put anything in of our own. And for
Wow.
it to be year 4, that's like I'm nervously excited about that.
Well, and I think some of the chillness of the convention, like, so full disclosure, I've been going to 2DCon since years. Do we still call it
Year
year
0?
zero? Year zero.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been able to witness this convention grow. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, this started off partially as almost like a giant LAN party that um
Mhm.
just more and more people are like, yeah, can I come and do this? Can I come do that? And before we know it, we had a convention on our hands.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the conception story is fantastic. It was a complete accident, and I don't think many, you know, 2,500 to 3,000 person events can say that they started on accident. You usually plan for this kind of thing, but
Hmm.
it was supposed to be a LAN event. That's what Joe and his friends used to do, host these 200 to 300 person LAN events, which is still asked like that's huge. It's a huge feat in and of itself.
Hmm.
Um, and they've always loved the concept of like, let's get the gamers, in person. We know we're playing online games, but let's actually bring the people together. And they outgrew their venue. Like they used to host these at like a movie theater, which was so fun and would make the movie theater bank like off of snacks.
Without a
Oh
doubt.
gosh,
And
I can just imagine.
yeah. And so I always say like the people who are in the know are the people who know what 2D stands for, because that's it. All of these events used to have just an alliteration name. We had March Mayhem, we had Winter Warzone, and
Mhm.
since I'm telling the story, it was Digital Destruction. And that's what it was. And the hotel was actually ourselves and SGDQ were both talking to the hotel at the same time. This was going to be their first year in Minnesota during the summer, and they needed to upgrade their internet. So we were like, okay, if we both sign, you have to make sure it's upgraded by XYZ date. And we signed, but SGDQ did not. So they did not upgrade their internet by XYZ date. So unfortunately, we kind of got like kind of left in the shuffle, and they scheduled their upgrade for a week after.
Mhm.
So, that very first year, which is year 0, we didn't charge anybody. We paid very little for the space. It was just supposed to be that LAN event, and instead we were like, I guess let's bring all of our own tabletop games. And let's bring our one VR set that we own. And this one band said they would come play. We don't have a stage, but they'll just stand there and play, and that's cool. And
Whatever works.
Yeah, and we ended up with almost 800 people that came throughout the 2 days. Um,
Wow.
right, it was insane. And we were like, "Oh, snap. Okay, the people want this. Like, okay, you know what? We're going to charge 15 whole dollars next year and we're going to rent out both ballrooms because we only had one ballroom which was not enough space for 800 people, even a little bit." And then we had everything ready to go. My husband and I are like super anal about like, let's make the maps, let's get the schedule, let's do the things. He's got graphic design skills, so we were ready. And they tore the hotel down 2 months before our event
Wow.
on the
Oh
first
yeah,
official
that's
year.
right.
Yep.
So, and it affected multiple events, but ours was the next one. we had we it was a Friday, and the only reason we found out is because a friend was at the meeting when the sale happened. And we left work, we went to the hotel, and the manager was like, "I haven't even told the staff yet." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So we were there in the
Wow.
midst of the most emotional moment of this like general manager's life because she had to hand everybody papers and they were done. And there was only like a handful of staff that were kept on for even one more week. And how all of that was legal, I have no idea. Not going to get into it. But it just happened so quickly. And right after we left there, we went to the next hotel and we were like, "Do you have space on this exact date? I don't care what the space is at this point." And they somehow did. And it's only like 5 more miles down the road in the same city. So the artists and the vendors and the guests were not inconvenienced whatsoever. Um and we got very, very lucky. But then at that point, that's a new hotel. We have no maps. We have no concept of AV. We have nothing. And we just kind of threw it together.
Yeah.
Um, and that was our official year one.
So I feel like something mayhem would have been a better theme for it, but you
Oh
already
my
had your themes.
goodness. Seriously. And that was we've had these, you always have like a tagline for the event, and we had press start to begin was year zero. All your base was the second year. Then we had Mish is repping it. We got Pixel Paradise.
Mhm.
Um, and then last year was the critical hit because we ended up in a major fallout amidst a time when that hotel that we ran to for solace was kicking everybody out anyway. So we were just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Um, and we're still so new, like we didn't have the reserves that these other events had to jump to the next space, but we had to anyway. Yeah.
Mhm.
um so last year was critical hit and this year is wasteland. so
So what hotel are you at? I'm kind of scared now.
yeah, no, it's okay. We actually moved to the same one that the two other larger events in Minnesota moved to, the Hyatt Regency Minneapolis.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely not a wasteland. Got it. We're
No,
good.
no, no,
Okay.
no. We're just, but like it feels like we are because we haven't had a year, like 2 years in a row, to just chill and let the
Mm.
event happen. That hasn't been a thing yet. And that's crazy. And it's phenomenal that we've been able to not just keep it like afloat, but like it is thriving. We're still trending at like a 20% increase for this year alone. And I don't
Um,
see it slowing down. Like once people come on Friday, I have zero doubt they're gonna freak out and more people are gonna flood in on Saturday because what we have planned for this year is ridiculous.
I'm excited. So the thing is with some of the guests that 2DCon has been able to bring in over the years, like I'm truly excited again for this year. So last year the big guest was Taylor Davis, which is a violinist who is phenomenal. This year we're touching back on some Twitch based themes or guests. So do you want to talk about who we've got or who you've got coming for 2DCon this?
Yeah. I can. And Taylor Davis was kind of like an all or nothing. Like that was the one big name that we had last year, which meant we kind of had to sacrifice. Like you either get a bunch of mid to the higher tier, or you pay a bajillion dollars for a professional violinist. Like these are your options. So, um, which I regret nothing. I'm so excited that I got to meet her. She was a wonderful person, and she wouldn't have been able to come this year because she's pregnant. So you know what? It all worked out. But this year, I'm super excited. We have
And there goes the audio. We'll wait for her to come back.
This cast has gone so smoothly, I
Hey,
must say.
it wouldn't be a live podcast if it didn't happen.
It's true.
We'll
At
wait.
least 5 times.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's really amazing to me, like how organic everything is in this progress. You
Mhm.
think about all of the big conventions, especially like out on the coast. You've got stuff like PAX, you've got stuff like Comic-Con, and I know out here in Boston they just changed their name out to Fan Expo. Like you've got a lot of big names and big brands now to these different events.
Yep.
And you'll definitely have some local events, but you never see anything really hit that level of like thousands of people are coming in and checking out and seeing what's happening.
You know what the crazy thing is too is by being in the middle of the country, it's a lot easier for everyone to get here because you don't have to go all the way across the country. You only have to go halfway across the country. Just
That
saying.
is
yeah,
true.
for sure.
Okay,
I'm back. I apologize.
welcome back. No worries.
Yeah, sorry.
You were at. We're proud to announce. And then cut.
8. I think I heard 8. Is it 8 or 80? 800?
Yeah.
800,000.
So it's 88-bit music is one of the individuals that we're bringing in, and I was I was like talking to myself, and then I realized nobody was moving. Um, I was trying to remember how he words what he does. He is an amazing pianist, and his song list is insane, and people get to just pick what he plays throughout the whole stream from his list. And so the people in the audience are going to have the opportunity to do that, control what's being played and control how the concert is going. And I think that
Ooh.
is just so much fun.
An interactive
Wow.
concert then.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
And what he does is he'll usually do like it's like a $5 donation, and then you pick the next song. So we're gonna try and bring that in, and we're gonna be using Tiltify and in-person donations to the charity that we're supporting that I'll gladly touch on in a second, to control the concert. And that's just so cool. And we actually convinced one of the other bands coming, who's a local band, but we've had them since year zero, um and that's Do a Barrel Roll, and they're local, but they're
Yes.
amazing, and that name, like, you just can't not love it. And they're actually they chose to do a small segment where like 3 or 4 of their songs are going to be donation based as well. So we're going to put a chunk up, and whichever ones get the most donations are the ones that they're going to play in the concert. And
That's
I don't know, I
awesome.
think it's so fun. I haven't been to any event where that's happened before. So,
Yeah, no, I don't think I can think of anything like that either, which is really cool.
yeah. And then and then we have Two Tone Disco, who is he's not on Twitch by any means, but please look him up on Spotify. He is a anime and gaming style DJ, and he just got back from Japan. He's got a mix with why am I forgetting her name? James would be very disappointed in me right now. Miku Atsume. Like, he's a decent he reached out to us, and I'm still baffled about this, but um like, I had never actually heard of him, and I listened, and I was like, oh my god, I need to meet this person now, and I became instantly obsessed. It is 100% my type of music. And that's it for the music guests this year, because we decided to hit the cosplay not trend, but like the cosplay track really hard this year. So we're bringing in Night Mage and Super Casey And if you find either of them on Facebook, they're an amazing duo. They have so many cosplays that they do together, and they fit our model where they don't get paid. They donate everything that they make at their table to the charity. Like, we are not about bringing in people to bring in people. We're about bringing in people who are just furthering our own brand and really bolstering that community that we've built.
Yeah, and Super Case is really great for that too. I had
Oh,
the privilege of meeting her a few years ago, and yeah, she's absolutely that way.
she seems amazing. I'm very excited to meet both of them. And then we have a gentleman named Alan Schulting, who was actually one of those behind the scenes of the cosplay world people. He's worked for, he helped start Cosplay Culture magazine. He tried to launch C4 magazine. He was actually, he works at C2E2. Like, he's one of those people that you don't necessarily know, but he's a ridiculously gifted author. And so having him be there and kind of helping, like, gear up our cosplay and doing a nice write up about it and all that stuff. I'm really excited to have him on board as well.
Awesome. So, one of the things that has come up a few times now is charity, and the fact that this is done for charity purposes. And the Newbcast here is certainly aware of doing work for charity. We did work for St. Jude back in May and did plenty for that. But what about 2DCon, and what type of work has 2DCon done for raising money for the different causes, and what are they?
Definitely. So, as I mentioned, this is going to be the 4th year. The first 2 years, we sent all our donations through Extra Life. So our local Children's Miracle Network hospital, which is Gillette. And I want to say we almost hit the 10,000 mark both years. Those 2 years we were hitting it really hard. We actually didn't have any way to online donate either, so that was kind of huge for us. And that did include our Extra Life Day though. So the whole year we were able to raise about 10,000. Last year we chose Save, a local charity that's Suicide Awareness Voices of Education. And it wasn't actually a personal choice, and then it turned into a personal choice throughout the year. We had chosen it just because my husband is bipolar 2, which means you have a lot of those depressive tracks and moments, and very passively, and we're very open about it with our friends and our community, and we think everybody should be. We're huge advocates of mental health in general. And so we chose to align ourselves with that last year, which was great. That we knew we didn't want to keep that for long term. We wanted to bring it back to something a little more gaming centric. Not that mental health as a concept is not gaming centric. But we chose Able Gamers Foundation for this year, and I'm thinking we might keep them for a little while. And the reason is they're not as well known, but they should be. And I think us choosing this along the same time that Microsoft launched their variety controllers, their accessible line, really plays up nicely, because that's amazing that Microsoft did that. But it's still very expensive. And the Able Gamers Foundation works with the disabled individual and creates a rig custom to. Oh, hold on. Sorry, what?
I think I got desync from everyone now. Everybody seems to be frozen.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
I think that was just your end. Everything looks good on our end, so.
We're all fine here.
Everybody
Okay,
feel
hey.
a resolution.
Hey, it wasn't me for once.
Nope.
Like, one.
Yeah, it's. Oh my goodness. This is something.
Okay.
We're all okay. How are you?
Okay, so Microsoft's accessible line is fantastic. It's amazing that they did that, but it is very expensive. You have the base, and then there's a lot more accessories to go with it. But again, that cost adds up. And the Able Gamers Foundation works with the disabled individual to create something custom for them at little to no cost to them. And I think that is just amazing. And something that Michelle knows, but not a lot of people know, is I can't actually play video games. I have had an issue with my right arm for years, and so it actually really hurts to hold a controller. And so that's why I was like, I haven't played anything. And it's gotten to the point where it's actually even hard to roll dice. So I actually have a surgery consultation literally the week of 2D Con actually. Oh my goodness. Um so this means a lot to me in general, and I'm lucky that mine should be able to be fixed. But not everybody is that lucky. And but I mean, my husband has been trying to like modify things for me, and I, again, I'm just so lucky. I've surrounded myself with such a community. But it's like he made me a custom fight stick so that I can play and it won't hurt. I can, I have like a different type of joystick, and I don't have to push the buttons. And it's kind of boxy, so I don't really bring it anywhere. But I can plug it into the arcade machines that we have at the house and play along, which is really cool. And that's why my son and I flip flop who has the controller, because I can only hold it for so long. I played mini golf today, and I think I have destroyed my hand, and that's just ridiculous. But so
And
yeah, so this is a foundation that I'm very excited to be working with, and they're not that far away. They're actually based in the Midwest also.
oh, perfect. So another local charity as well. That's Yeah, I think that's a great cause. I know there's a couple organizations that are like that, and I know that some other people that support them have similar stories. It's amazing how we could think of extreme circumstances that people have where they want a game, but they run into situations where they can't. But not everyone has those extreme circumstances. Like yours is an invisible situation. No one can see it unless you actually tell the person about it. Right. So the fact that we have an organization that's willing to work at all degrees and levels to help all gamers is just truly amazing, because
Yeah,
we know
I
what
agree.
we know what gaming does for everyone. We know how good gaming truly is for so many different people.
Yeah, and it definitely matches what you're doing too, because it is like the entire concept of 2DCon is gaming for everyone.
Yep.
Like how awesome is it that in the fundraising that you're doing, you're helping to further enable that. Just makes me very happy. Like warm fuzzies all over.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, we started this because we need the warm fuzzies, and you don't always get that in the drudge day-to-day, life. Like, my day job doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. Like, I'll just be honest about that. It pays the bills, but taxes do not give me the warm and fuzzies. Crazy, I know.
What?
But
What?
yeah,
I
so
thought
everybody
everybody
always
loves
asks how I
taxes.
have
You're right.
time for all of this, but you always have time for the warm and fuzzies.
Awesome. So is there anything else we want to add, or do we want to add in when, where, and
Yeah.
how people can get registered and find out more?
I think those are the remaining key points, and I think let's run through that quick. So August 23rd through 25th, I have this all memorized. It's so ridiculous. We're only 12 days away, and that's absolutely terrifying. So it is at the Hyatt Minneapolis, August 23rd through 25th, and to learn anything, you can search for 2DCon. www.2dcon.net. Otherwise, if you just put 2dcon on there, you'll easily find the Facebook, the website. Our Twitter handle is being displayed, I believe, still.
It is. Yep.
Yeah, and on the front page of the website, you can find out how to register, more information about the location, our Discord where you can ask literally anything, and, that's really it.
Awesome. And if you and if you are if you're listening to this on YouTube or on iTunes or wherever you happen to be listening to it, the description will have a link to the 2DCon website, so you can go check it out for yourself that way, so you don't have to scramble going, what are you talking about? Fantastic. So I think we
are
would
there
keep...
still tickets? Are there still tickets?
So we don't sell out. The hotel itself can fit a bajillion people, so we don't have a cap. What we do, because I need to do some lovely coding behind the scenes,
Doo-doo.
is the Monday, the 2DCon and Doo-Doo. Yep. We're adults. Uh, the Monday before the event, so 5 days before the event, I turn it off, the online registration off, so that I can import everybody into the system and make sure that badges are ready to go. So you either get registered in advance and save yourself $5, or you have to just be a walk-up person, which can be anytime the entire event. You can walk up and register. So there is no cap. There will always be tickets available. But if you want to save that money, then do it before the Monday before, which is, God, I can't math, so I don't even know what day it is today, to be honest. So there you go.
Still Sunday the 11th, if that helps.
So not this Monday, but the Monday after.
You have 8 days.
Okay, and
Yes.
how much are badges again?
35 for the entire weekend, which is insane when you think about the fact that it's a 24-hour event and everything is free play.
I can't go to Fan Expo where I have to pay for everything for a single day for 30.
Right. And then like one of our models is that's like the major thing. There are certain tournaments that are cash tournaments, but we always have casuals running of those tournaments anyway. And yeah, like the arcade alone is over 100 pieces and it's all set on free play. And like you can't go to Dave and Buster's for $35 for 2 hours. So we're offering something.
I wish you could.
And I know that it's worth so much more than that, but again, it's gaming for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, kids are only $10, so like there you go.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And it just I know she didn't mention this, but I'll mention it because I understand the rules too, given some of my other roles around here. They are badges. They're not just tickets, but they're badges. So it's a membership to everything that they do. So if there's other events throughout the year, you can go to those as well, because memberships, and that's how nonprofits work. So there's that little tidbit as well. I would love to keep you for the rest of the show, but as I understand it, you are unfortunately unable to do so.
Apparently, you've got a lot of things going on because there's this convention and it keeps you busy.
Also, your priorities are completely out of your line, young lady.
Being a parent and like working at 6 a.m. and like all this.
Gosh. So, normally we keep guests till the end of the show. Given your circumstance, we completely understand why you are unable to do so. So I'm just actually trying to adjust everything over on the other side here. But if this is where you've got to run in and head out, we completely understand. And
I will, but I vote we put a pin on me being a guest. I'll come back sometime when my stuff is working on my actual computer and hang out for the whole time.
That would be fantastic. We would love to have you back.
Mm-hmm.
We can hear about how 2DCon went further on down the road. I think that would be a great follow-up, right, guys?
Oh, absolutely.
Cool. All right, Shanna.
All right.
Well, thank you again for being here. We truly do appreciate it. And full disclosure, guys, I do photography work for 2DCon, so you'll definitely see me there. And Shanna can be seen running around like crazy during the weekend as well.
Mm-hmm. Have a fantastic con.
I create some really crazy antics. Last year I made a living room out of all of the hotel's furniture.
Yep.
Just because I was tired. And yeah, so I mean, you have to come and experience it, and I'll tell you what I did that wasn't planned, because that's my favorite part.
Oh, hey, I do have one audience question before you go. And again, I wouldn't normally do this, but because it's relevant, because there's a chance that my butt will show up on there too. Is this, no, streaming. I understand that there's open streaming, right? For streaming personalities of the Midwest. Are we still able to sign up for that?
Absolutely. To my knowledge, that has not been filled, and Nestor and Natasha from N Squared were planning on accepting people who were walking up for any slots that were still available. Basically, well, yeah, new this year we'll have a stream station where the computer's there, the OBS and the overlays are already on. You can just save them and log in as yourself, and you'll have the 2DCon branding ready to go.
Perfect. I know who to harass then.
Yeah. They
Cool.
thought of it, and Joe thought of it, so we're great.
Okay.
But yeah, any slots didn't get filled out, you can just sign up on site on like a sheet and just come and stream from your own station from 2DCon.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Well, Shanna,
Have
again,
a good night, everybody.
have a good one. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, Shanna.
All right.
Lovely evening. Sleep well.
And I love it that everything was adjusted just right for the rest of this. All right.
Magic behind the scenes.
Yeah, right. I actually had things ready to roll. That's awesome. So yeah, there's a few personalities around the Midwest. We've had N Squared on the show before, who's running that. They're in 2DCon. I would normally ask like one of these lovely gentlemen to maybe do a fill-in stream, but since I might be able to pick up a stream during that weekend, there'll be a spontaneous one that I'll be doing. So yeah.
Ooh.
And I know that a fellow streamer that I think very highly of is asking as well, so he'll probably be on there too. And if you hear him, he's got a voice of gold. Gentlemen, we have a couple more topics that we have to discuss.
That we do.
So, news related. Do we want to jump into that last news related one? The Valve and Valve not knowing what we should be focusing on over at Valve?
Who shall set it up?
Set the table, Elijah. Go for it.
Okay, so as we all know, famously, Valve tried to monetize mods, and it went over horribly years and years ago with Skyrim.
Mhm.
And we know how ever since then they've been pretty hands-off of Steam Workshop. Become a decent alternative if you don't want to have to go through all the hassle of doing something like, Nexus. And you know how they finally were just starting to respond to player and user feedback because, hey, Epic Game Store's actually putting the heat on. Maybe they'll finally do something. They have finally managed to be the most Valve that Valve could possibly be. And take all of that and instead focus on now making it a moderator required approval system for all mods, for every game. Every single game that has Steam Workshop support, you want to submit something now, you have to hope that someone has the time to look at your mod and approve it. And I guarantee you, they're not going to play every single one of those bloody, this is my first try, zombie maps for Black Ops 3 or anything. As if there was this humongous problem of tons of Hitler or something like that, there was something really controversial happening to prompt this. Maybe I can understand, but there's not even anything happening to cause this. Yes, there's still some Dunkopf who's going to make his Skyrim game star the most ridiculous jiggle physics naked anime girl ever. I don't think anybody wants to even think about that, so why would you bring it up and put it front and center in everyone's mind that you're now going to moderate pretty much every mod on Steam Workshop, unless the mod tools exclusively use Steam Workshop, is available on Nexus, so essentially what they're saying is, don't use our modding platform. This is what they have moderators for, not for filtering the games coming in, not for handling what people should actually be saying in the comments section or in the community sections, but what the modders are doing.
Yeah, see, I feel like that this is just going to end up falling on its face. Like, between all the different games that are on Steam right now and how many use Workshop and how many mods are being submitted through Workshop, I feel like that greatly outnumbers the amount of games that are actually going out on Steam. So wouldn't it be better to moderate the games that are coming out and it's not all tush? I don't know. Dizagy, you appear to have a statement, question, or something else that you're afraid to, just speak out on. So please.
So there's some good news, and I don't know if it's because of immediate backlash to the idea that all of these mods would have to deal with this situation, but it looks like it is specific to a couple of games. It looks like they're going to be doing the moderation for Strike Go. They're going to be doing it for Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2.
So
because
they've
been having specific issues with those games. Now, that being said, the possibility that they go and creep up on that is pretty reasonable.
I feel like if it's their games, that might make a little more sense if that is at that point they're controlling what goes out onto their platform and their games and whatnot. Moderation, I still suspect is going to be a mess.
Oh yeah, actually, it's just I hadn't thought about Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 is just gonna be cluster fricked the entire way to hell. There's so many hats sent in on a daily basis now.
Well, but so by doing this,
gosh.
it gives them the ability to kind of put a gate on what comes through and goes onto their game and how the game is presented, because anyone could make anything and it can make their game look horrible in light of situations. And as we've seen from other larger news sources and media sources, the eyes on video games and how well people actually understand what effects games have, trying to anything to lessen that impact is probably a decent move, even though it does seem contrived and stupid from our perspective.
I just would love to see the person with the job of hat moderator.
Oh my gosh, yes,
Valve.
that's on their resume now. Some poor bastard is going to have that on their resume.
It is. Yes, they are.
I feel like who's going to be the best applicant for this position? Say the job opens. Should we search for somebody from the Ministry of Silly Walks, perhaps?
Maybe. I don't know.
Or maybe the Department of Redundancy Department.
I see what you did there. That's my line. So that's a thing that's come up. I feel like, yeah, with the fact that it's stuck to Steam Workshop on Valve games, it's a lesser impact. So that's true. The number of hats and everything, I still think it's a greater number. I'd love to see how many particular pieces are coming through the workshop for those games alone, and how that compares to the games that are still being released. Because I feel like my statement's still accurate to a degree.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, so it's just, I don't know. I guess I just miss the Steam of old, where decent games made it on, and when we had the Steam sales, we were excited for the games because we were like, "What awesome games can we buy?" Not, I don't want to buy that, and I don't want to buy that, and that.
There's two more things. That are
Sure.
worth mentioning here. One is trying to stop modders doesn't work. Like, even DICE has finally just given up. With Battlefront 2, it's not a voluminous, but there is an active modding scene of people who are doing tons of cosmetics that they're never officially going to do for Battlefront, and they just kind of been like, fine, whatever, so long as you're not cheating, we won't ban you. And that's just been a thing. And to be quite frankly honest, there's nothing stopping someone from buying their Team Fortress 2 game to have whatever they want in it, and especially since it's the source engine, which is infinitely moddable. And just, yeah, that's a whole spirit of wax. And the one positive that could be coming out of this is that this is them, if they are being clever in any regard, this is them testing the waters for having a moderation. This is them testing the waters for having people to filter content and actually look at it. But
are you suggesting a positive way to look at what's going on here for something that could possibly happen as a result of their doing this? Is that what you're doing?
I'm saying that there's a hypothetical chance that I would love to be true, but also Valve has disappointed me so many times in a row that it's like, in an ideal world, they would actually be using this as a learning experience.
Right.
A return to curation, the way that we originally had Steam, is akin to taking the water that's fallen from the Hoover Dam and trying to just like scoop it and put it back up.
Exactly. That's the one thing though, is like, even if they're doing it, they have left the barn door open for so long that you can lock it, you can close it, but there's still more than 30 to 50 hogs running around.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. I see what you did there. Did you think that was going to pass by me? No.
It was out there. It was just out there roaming the field. I had to take the shot.
I mean,
Unreal.
What else are you going to do? I mean, you don't have any other choices.
And you took a shot at it. I see what you did there too.
The memes.
I mean, we had the memes, we have the actual story, but I feel like that's been run into the ground and talked so much as far as that's concerned, and that meme and where it came from, that there's no point in bringing it up because we're just repeating what everyone else has said. So that in case you guys are wondering why we're not talking about the censorship of games, that is exactly why. We're gonna repeat everything that everyone else has said because we've all heard the arguments for the past 20 years, and it's the same argument. So we're gonna save our breath, and that's the extent of breath being used on that.
I would encourage you to review one of our earlier podcasts where we've discussed the same thing.
Yes. But one thing that I'm willing to not save my breath on, and I'll go into it. Well, maybe. It's not. So, guys, I'm sorry this isn't in the notes. This is kind of sporadic, but it is about Epic Games again. I'm sure. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not, but there was a class action lawsuit that was filed in the state of North Carolina because of security involved. What happened is back in 2018, there was a major leak where, I forget the immediate number. It was a pretty large 200,000 Fortnite players that had their account, their personally identifying information available to people that had access to this leak. And they finally plugged the hole in 2019. They have yet to actually tell anyone that's been affected by this leak that their information was indeed leaked or could potentially have been leaked. And there's 100 people currently in North Carolina suing Epic. So Epic's back in the headlines again for less than positive news.
Yeah, I mean, we see so many different leaks by different companies. I mean, you got the deal that was going on with Capital One. You got Equifax, which, I mean, apparently there's a website now that you can just go and be like, hey, I'm going to put my info in here and see if Equifax messed things up so I can get money from them. And it's probably going to amount to like 40 cents because everybody's going on it. Yay, class action lawsuits. But it is amazing how much personal information we give to people, especially playing online games, because you think about it, you get purchase information, you get credit card information. Security is a really, really big thing. And there's only so much that you can do for it, especially with video games, because you think about it, like a lot of people use like virtual private networks, VPNs, in order to obfuscate that information and try to keep it as private as possible. But very often, especially if you have a purchase system that's inside a game, you can't even use a browser for it. You're stuck to whatever browser they have over there. You don't get the security that you would want, and this is becoming a growing issue.
Did you just swing at a sponsorship by mentioning VPNs and all the VPNs out there, et cetera, et cetera? Because I feel like that's what you just did there, Dizzy. I'm on to you.
I don't have a recommendation for VPN. But if you did, I would encourage you.
No. I actually don't. No, yeah, I think you're right, and I feel like we're gonna continue to see those type of headlines. It's just this time around it was Epic, and we know how much Epic, at least on this show, has been our piñata this year. I think that's fair. So I decided to take a stick out and take another whack at it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and here's the worst part is how many of those people who had their information leaked aren't going to find out until another 10 years when they get their first credit card and they're like, oh, you've had all of this debt that's been accrued in your name. Surprise!
Right. I don't know. And it's too bad, too, because I feel like what a lot of credit card companies do now is they give you the credit monitoring as part of their service. It's like, yeah, we haven't seen anything that's changed that you should be aware of. But not everyone gets that, so...
If anything, I want us to say here is that it's kind of stunning to me that especially the games industry has been doing a terrible job of just understanding that you need to be secure. Actual major tech companies have been more stringent about it. I mean, even Sony, for all the many questionable things they've done, when the PSN got knocked out, they got back to everyone a lot faster than we saw from either the ESA or Epic in this scenario. And it's just...
True.
it is stunning to see this sort of stuff happening and just playing out, because it tends to not even be like complicated hacking stuff. It's just someone being lazy and taking the simplest route over something that's actually secure. And it's something that's also happened on the micro scale for a lot of users out there, because there are things that you can do for free or very little money that will ensure that you have a great deal more security and safety, but a lot of people just don't do it. And in the current landscape that we're in, you kind of have to.
Right. I don't know. I feel like this could almost become a flavor of the week, and by the time our next episode comes around, it'll come up again. Uh, uh, so going from that to, more just topics of general interest and discussion. I feel like I mentioned Steam sale or the Steam sale earlier, right? I feel like people that end up buying games or end up with games a lot, or just sales in general, game sales in general, you can end up with a backlog.
Yeah.
I would love to know what's something that's in your backlog that you're ashamed that's currently in your backlog, and you're like, I know I'll enjoy it, I just need to play it. I feel like Elijah's
just ready
probably
for
got
the shame command.
ding ding ding, shame. No, we can start off with Elijah. I imagine you've got an interesting backlog. What's a game that you currently have back there that you'd love to play, you just haven't played it yet?
We're talking as in I have not opened it at all, or I have opened it some and I just need to get back to it?
If it's in your backlog.
Probably the game that I would most like to get back to, that I'm most frustrated that I have not gotten back to, is probably Tomb Raider Anniversary or Nier, the original. Those two I've really been wanting to get to, and Dragon Guard 3 comes in third place. No, that's not a joke, it's just really third place there in terms of those are the three games I most want to get around to playing, but they just either it's the theme the channel is currently focusing on, or it's my schedule, or something. I get to finish them. I love all three games. I think they're fantastic experiences, but I have not had the opportunity to finish any of them. Besides that, I did manage to. A friend managed to send me one of the Project Rainfall titles, so that's the thing that I really am kicking myself for not getting into. But other than that, it's just. Is everyone else frozen, or
You're good.
No, we're just
apparently
listening.
everyone's frozen for me, but not on the
We
channel.
are
That's
listening
interesting.
very attentively to you.
I heard we are listening, Barry. My name's not Barry, and there isn't another Barry. But are we still doing freezing? Is that a thing?
I think we got buried derailed by this.
But yeah, it's safe to say I'm not getting down to the bare necessities of what I really want to play. Yeah, you guys.
I love how you have.
Should take over, or it's gonna get grisly.
Stop now. Just stop.
I can't see your reactions, but I'm sure there's lots of groaning.
Yes.
Say nothing, chat. Say nothing.
Dizzy G, what about you? What is in your backlog that you want to play? You know you'll enjoy. You just haven't played it yet, or you've played a little bit of it and you know you have to finish it.
So one of the games that's specifically set in my stream list, because they're really fun to play and they're really fun to play with a bunch of people, that I am so upset that I haven't actually gone through the entire game with, is Darkest Dungeon.
Oh, okay.
I've definitely played through and I've given it some time. And I think whenever I get into a game, this is very much like me when I started playing Persona. It's as soon as I have a lot of important decisions that I have to make, I get overwhelmed by it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put this over here, but I'm sure I will catch up with it sometime soon. I've just got to pick out my time. and I enjoy the decisions that are made, and it is the sort of game that's designed to be extremely grueling and punish you even when you've made the right choice, and I love it for that. But it continues to sit there, and I feel constantly guilty that I haven't done more with the game.
Okay.
I think the other one that is kind of in that realm, and I feel guilty more that like it was given to me as a gift, and I've wanted to play it, and
Bad
I
Rats?
just don't get into it.
I couldn't help myself.
If you ever, I'm going to warn everybody right now, whoever hears this podcast, if you friend Miss Michelle Jean on Steam, make sure you deny the gift of Bad Rats. It is for your own good. I can make a review of it if you don't believe me, so that you can check it out for yourself.
Oh, I want to see this
I
review.
want to see
before you have
this.
to-
I want to see this. Make it happen. Make it so.
This is going to be a thing at some point.
Congratulations.
This
you
is
just made
Jay
it a thing.
reviews Bad Rats. Wow. I just this backfired on me so bad. So bad. But it is in fact Monster Hunter World.
Oh. Damn it.
It is
Well,
a
you just
gorgeous game.
You just took mine.
Really?
Yes.
No! You know, there is an answer to this.
Well, clearly there's an answer to it now, but yes, you just took my answer because Monster Hunter World was mine too. I got 5 hours in maybe, and when my GPU got up to 80 degrees Celsius, I'm like, I need to turn this off.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Did you play it while streaming, or did you play it just offline?
I was offline.
Wow.
Now, mind you, my ventilation's gotten better since then, and I'm using liquid cooling for some of my stuff, so there's better airflow for the GPU. But that happened.
Yeah. I think really the reason why that was going on with you is that they wanted to simulate the feeling of being in that era of time where the average heat inside, wherever you are was like on average 95 or so. So they wanted to just heat up your graphics processor.
Yeah, right. Jeez, but no, that is also on my list of the many things. So thank you for completely.
We did not discuss this beforehand.
No, we didn't.
So if I had taken it at that point, I would be the most awful person on earth.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm only the second most awful person.
Kind of.
But to who? Who is the worst?
Well, it could be either Elijah or Hippo. It could be either one of them, to be honest. I mean, you're all Newbcasters, so.
I mean, what if Elijah and Hippo combined into a single super being?
No.
I don't think that would end well.
No.
I'm telling you that right now. I do not think that would end well.
There'd be puns and butt jokes everywhere. It'd be horrible.
Puns and butts?
Puns and butts.
Yeah. They just,
Yep. So, why
Something else
Monster
I don't
Hunter
use.
World for you, Dizzy?
I wanted to stream it, and every time I would stream it, it would get maybe to 20 frames a second.
Ooh, yeah.
And when I would play it offline, it would jump up. It would skyrocket. I'd get like 45 to 50. Definitely in playable territory. Not where I'd like it to be, but like it's reasonable. And then after I stopped getting excited about it, I didn't know who to play it with. So I guess we've resolved that problem at least.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat with you there. So, because so ventilation and frame rates and all that. Yeah, okay, so we're in the same boat there. You got a new machine, so you probably can run it a lot better now.
It's true. I think the final dilemma is that I came to Monster Hunter World thinking, hey, I'm not going to have to deal with grinding. This is all about how you use techniques to beat these enemies. And then they gave me all of these items that I have limited amounts to collect. And wait a second, I could just be playing WoW at this point. What am I doing?
Yeah, or join us back in Guild Wars. Do it. Guild Wars, do it.
I'm hearing the do the hustle do it in the background.
No, it's
I'm now going to have to hurt you for getting that song in my head. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you when. Someday.
Will it be Swift at least?
Oh dear. Mine is pretty similar to that too. Frame rate wasn't necessarily my thing. It's ventilation and making sure my machine didn't melt.
Mm-hmm.
That, and I felt like there's a point where it's definitely a party-based game. Like, you can do a little bit solo, but you definitely want to play with a party. But getting people, when you're busy and the people that you know are busy trying to get aligned schedules, you're better off being in hell. Let's be honest. So that was my other conundrum and why I hadn't played it. But it's definitely in my backlog. It's like, yes, I would love to play more Monster Hunter World. Yep, because it was the Monster Hunter that I was excited for when they announced at E3. Okay, was it 3 years ago now?
Yeah, that was one of your most excited games. I recall that. Yeah.
Yep, it was. It was, because I remember watching it going, God, this looks a lot like a Monster Hunter World, but it's not cartoony. And then it's like, oh shit, it is a Monster Hunter. It is a Monster Hunter game. And I was like, yes, I'm all about this. So there's that, and then the other one that's in my backlog that I never finished. I got through to where you thought you had covered everything in the world, and then you found out you're just on a floating island, and there's a whole another world that you got to go to. Is Final Fantasy 3.
Oh.
Yep.
That wasn't my first thought when you said that. Final Fantasy, I was thinking 13.
3. Yep. Gotta play
Spoilers.
3. Yep. Gotta play 3. 13. I think I have it on. I think I have it on my 360. So it's there, but the way my 360 is hooked up these days, I just don't know if I'm ever going to get to it. Because in order to get to my 360 to play it on the TV, because of the amount of things that we have hooked up, it's actually hooked up to the Xbox One. So you have to go to the Xbox One and go to the cable thing that's on the Xbox One, and that actually enables the 360 to work. And we can so we're playing 360 through the Xbox One.
I am going to throw this out there. The description that you had for Final Fantasy 3 is the same description for Final Fantasy 13. Are they just recycling these games?
Maybe.
Is Final Fantasy 47 going to be, I'm going to take 20% of 7, 30 to 40% of 14.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Does 13 have the job system that Final Fantasy is notorious for?
It has a job system asterisk question mark.
Okay, because 3 is where it kind of really kicked off with the job system and how that works and became more prevalent in like 5 and X2.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where
it is much more about roles.
Yes.
As opposed to specific classes.
Gotcha.
But you could describe them as classes.
Okay. But yeah, that's the other thing in my backlog that I would really like to finish, especially since I've got it on 3DS and PC. I could play it either way right now, and yeah. Right.
That would be awesome.
Maybe something to add to our backlogs is a spin-off game then. If you had a spin-off game, well, what would you want a spin-off game? And when I say spin-off game, I'm talking about like Hyrule Warriors or Crystal Chronicles or anything of the sort. Like, what is a spin-off game? Ooh. Yeah. This is a tough one.
I have an instant answer because it almost existed and it continually pisses me off that I never got it.
Okay.
Dead Space almost had a flight simulator.
Oh.
Seriously, apparently it was one. They were prototyping an Uncharted-like one, a first-person one, and one that was akin to a flight simulator. I'm not sure if there would have been any on-foot stuff. I kind of imagine you need to, but I firmly believe that whatever tech they probably worked on it is what went into Dead Space 3's space sections, because it's kind of obvious that they were putting together what they had left. So
sure,
I would have loved that because it's just the perfect universe for that kind of like a nice middle ground between the very grounded stuff you see in like Battlestar Galactica's reboot versus some of the more fantastical stuff that a horror fantasy Cthulhu-ish sort of thing can get away with. So I would bloody well love that to
Okay.
bits. And if there is a prototype out there somewhere in the world, someone please show us what it could have been. But besides that, actually, I'm gonna take another EA franchise. It drives me crazy. There should have been a Wii
Drives?
game starring Jack from Mass Effect. Her whole thing was that she
Okay.
could manipulate physics with both of her hands and do all sorts of things. I can very easily seeing that translate into motion controls, especially with the capabilities of the Wii U.
Okay.
It just would have been a perfect little spin-off game. It would have been all sorts of fun, and she's a character with so much unexplored backstory.
Okay. Oh, I'm trying to think of it. One of the first immediate ones that come to mind that I think would have been a fun spin-off game would have been an FPS in the StarCraft world. And then, wait a minute. That, yeah. Look, I would have played that. I'm not going to lie. I would have played that. Of course, that's basically what PsyOps is.
Yeah.
If you ever played PsyOps, like if you were to throw the things that you're fighting as Zerg and then put a Sarah Kerrigan skin over the top of it, that's what PsyOps is. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the good ones. Like you're like, wow, what would be a good spinoff? You're like, what about Cryptid and Necrodancer meets Legend of Zelda? But you're like, oh, that exists and it's awesome.
That was an experience that I didn't know I needed until it happened. Holy cow.
I mean, it's interesting to hear like Elijah's story with a Mass Effect like side character like that. That is really interesting because that could lead to its own franchise and whatnot.
I actually have one more suggestion. It literally just came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why have we not had a Batman horror game yet? Like we've gotten teases of it, we've gotten close to it, but like if there was pretty much any superhero franchise where I could see them supporting it.
Mm-hmm.
Batman, it could work. It could work very well. The Scarecrow sections were very effective from a pure comic booky action sort of sense, and they brought out some of the best aesthetics. So, yeah, I could see that being a thing. And it just would lend itself very well to that. It's just a matter of balancing everything out so that it still feels fun. But I could see something like that happening.
Sure. Yeah, see, I'm finding that this is actually kind of harder to do with its idea of spin-offs and what would work. It's really tricky, right? Like, what are some great games that you think of and what would work? Like, because you think of other games, like, consider what Halo was at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it became its spin-off. I mean,
it's true.
Oh my gosh, just think about it. In fact, Halo actually did almost have that crazy spin-off. Do y'all know about this?
well, okay. Well, I know that it started off as a RTS that...
No. I'm talking about what happened with ODST. So, okay. So, story time here, kids. So,
Story time.
Here up here, we have Halo Recon, and over here, we have Halo... I forget what its name was, but Halo Recon was supposed to be basically an expansion pack to Halo 3, and in the way that the Halo 2 Mythic Pack was for Halo 2. This thing over here, however, this thing was going to be sort of... There's no other easy way to explain it. It would have been if you combined The Force Unleashed with Halo and also some BioShock, and DreamWorks was cooperating with this. Apparently part of the Halo TV show that almost happened, Pierre Jackson, was based on this. And the thing is, someone supposedly made it into ODST, which was essentially them merging the two projects together, scrapping most of Recon's story, and just desperately getting it all together so they could have it done in time, because Bungie was trying to get out from underneath Microsoft's boot at the time. So, in a very odd case, we almost had that. Also, we almost had Halo MMO and Halo DS, but both of those were fairly standard. This one was weird because you literally would just pay a standard Marine who would get infected by the Flood or something, or somehow be influenced by Forerunner tech. The reports vary, and you would have gotten psionic abilities. It's very not Halo sounding, but this almost happened as a full release product.
Wow.
Huh.
Who pulled it aside and said, yeah, you're definitely not where we want Halo to be?
I believe it was a change in leadership at Microsoft. Like all their things, they just suddenly canceled. All these projects they were trying to make happen just didn't come to fruition. The only one that made it out was Halo Wars, and then they closed Ensemble Studios, which still pisses me off to this day. And that was really the only one that came out. And that was part of why Bungie actually wanted it out, was because Microsoft they announced all these things. They were gonna make it this big franchise, and then it was just like none of it actually got to fruition. Supposedly the MMO was actually kind of interesting, but yeah, and there is a playable demo for the DS version. There is local multiplayer playable demo that some people have shown off. I think two of the guys at IGN actually have copies of the demo card. And yeah, it's just like it got really close. There would have been a ton of Halo spin-offs. We also nearly had Halo Mega Blocks, which looked amazing. And ever since it got leaked, they're like, "Oh,
Here's a.
you want this? Maybe we could make this happen," but they've not said anything.
I thought of one.
Okay.
What about like an over-the-shoulder adventure game, like what you see with, say, God of War or anything of that perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Diablo universe.
That could be interesting.
Right? You could have the large openness that you could make it open worldness of what is Diablo, going into the various dungeons of a lot of the, like there's elements that could just surprise the heck out of you because of how demons spawn. And of course the boss fights themselves could be intense.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I feel like the inherent thing that you would miss out on is the sense of like the Diablo procedural generation.
Well, yeah.
But I think you could keep a lot of the core elements that you've come to expect of Diablo in a very compelling way.
Yep.
Like you could still totally loot Pinata in a situation like that, and it feels good.
Yep.
We actually kind of got close to that with Darksiders 2, to be fair. So
kind of
it's sort of proven to work as a thing. So yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to throw out another one?
Well, do you have one, Dizza?
I've got a couple of ideas,
Okay,
and I realize like the moment I start putting them together that they're actually a game. So like Persona, but Advance Wars. Oh wait, that's Fire Emblem that just came out.
Yep.
3 houses. And that's it. So I would encourage that we, you've also got like the Persona music game, which I mean, Persona had amazing music, so that makes sense. What if we went the other way around? What if we took Dance Dance Revolution and turned it into an RPG?
That actually exists. It's an indie game. Metronomicon.
Why? I thought this was original. I thought nobody would ever be like, "Oh man, let's do this."
There's no such thing as an original idea anymore.
Oh.
Right.
Occasionally you find something that very few people have done, but yeah. I would love I'm just going to make this very quick here.
What if we were to make a Tony Hawk, but instead of Tony, it's a hawk?
How about the dog who's
we had Megan here
I know.
a couple of months ago.
I know we did. In fact, I think that's one of the options now, right? Because of her Patreon or her Kickstarter goal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So there's actually a hawk. I couldn't help myself. After that one, Dizza, I couldn't help myself.
Oh no, that's totally worth it.
Class-based Deus Ex in the reboot one. So Human Revolution or Mankind Divided, class-based multiplayer of that. The different systems they have, the level design they've got going on, they finally have nailed how to do the gunplay and the melee combat a bit better. I really think with a little more refinement, you could have something worthwhile there as like a free-to-play game. And there, Square Enix, you just can stop trying to make microtransactions in the game. You can just make a free-to-play spin-off to go alongside it. The people who will play multiplayer will play that, and you can use that to fund it so that we can finally find out what happened to Adam Jensen.
Okay, now I've got to really find something off the wall. Can we do Truck Simulator the FPS? No, wait. That's GTA.
Which, by the way, can be completely switched into a role play, which makes it a whole different. I wonder.
Dang.
Yeah, there's so many different twists to it, right?
This is tough. This is really tough.
This is a tough one.
Okay. Dream Daddy, but FPS. That's never been done before. I will stand here firmly and put my flag in the ground. Dream Daddy, FPS.
I heard
Let's
that.
do it.
FPS Dream Daddy.
Oh god. Galgun. It's with girls, but Galgun. I'm sorry. I know that because of Dan, because he played both entries. They are ridiculous to an umpteenth degree.
Oh,
Fair,
boy.
they're on rails, so you still have the mobility. You have the mobility.
Wow.
I honestly think that you're gonna run into a scenario where it's actually really hard because the way developers are trying to think of original ideas and whatnot, it's
I wonder if there is like some place on the internet where it just has a list of all of the games and it just randomly generates like, okay, well, our next project is going to be Ape Escape 2 meets Parappa the Rapper.
This website exists. I actually remember looking at it at one point. I forget its name.
Now you make me
There's a
want to
site
play
that does
Ape
this.
Escape again. Damn it! Why'd you do that for? That was such a fun
Because
game.
it's amazing and you need to go back to it.
I don't know if I actually ever owned it. I have it on my memory card, but I don't think I ever owned it. Like, if you go back and look at my memory card from my PS1, which, yes, I still have my PS1 memory card, mind you. There's a save file for it. I just never owned it. So, yeah.
What if we did Xenogears, but an actual sequel to Xenogears?
Now, see, that's actually something nobody has done.
Well done. There you go. You got it. You got it. Wow. Shots fired. I feel like we could sit here and just kind of go for a while, but I think we kind of hit the ones that we could do. And I think we're about at that point in the show where we can go ahead and wrap this up a bit. What do you guys think? So this is a point in the show where we go through and we talk about what we got coming up on our channels, where to find us, etc. Since Shanna is not here, I'll go ahead and mention it again. In 2 weeks' time, 2DCon will be at the Hyatt in downtown Minneapolis. That is that's August 23rd, 24th, 25th. And you can come hang out, play board games, video games, arcade games. There's a concert and everything else. $35 to get in, $40 at the door, and that's for the whole weekend. That's at
Do a Barrel Roll is amazing.
Do a Barrel Roll is fantastic. I've loved watching them every single time. You can find out more at 2dcon.net. Elijah, what do you got coming up on your channels? Where can we find you?
I got some reviews coming up. There's gonna be some more Clash of the Tie-ins going on, and some regular games for review. I got some codes for a few things, so it's gonna be interesting on that front. And I am going to be streaming more. We tried to stream Left Alive. It does not like OBS. The two of them do not get on well, but I have found a way to record it, so I will be getting a video review. And yeah, it's just like just follow me as Unaverage Gamer at all of the things. Right now, I don't have anything big to announce other than, as I've said before, you don't know, there's going to be a big thing in October. There's going to be all sorts of videos digging into all sorts of really weird horror games, and it's going to culminate in a giveaway stream towards the end of the month, and it's just going to be all kinds of awesome and all culminate in one of the rarest tie-in horror games that I have ever found.
Okay, cool. And where can we find you?
We can't find you. We can't find you on a Bridge Gamer.
Yeah.
Oh, I said you can find me on Average Gamer. I thought you were trying to transition to Dizza real quick.
No. I was asking just make sure that we could make sure where we can find you.
Yeah, yes. Just pretty much anywhere at Unaverage Gamer on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, all those things.
Perfect. Dizza G, where can we find you? What do you got coming up on your channel?
Hey there. Yes, I am DizzyG, and I can be found on the internets. I am DizzyG pretty much everywhere. So after an amazingly scathing review of Bad Rats, which I know is going to be up everyone's alley, I'm going to have to make a YouTube channel to make this happen. So after that obligation, we are playing some Dragon Quest Builders. We usually play Tuesdays and Thursdays as often as we can. Lately, things have been pretty wild because I've had real life kind of knocking on my door and doing a lot of cool stuff. It is really good stuff, so don't worry, life is great. But definitely enjoying Dragon Quest Builders, hoping to get some multiplayer in, and maybe transitioning into something else. We mostly play RPGs and JRPGs specifically in the channel, but on other days than Tuesday and Thursday, we can do random stuff. So definitely stop on by, check out everything on Twitch, on Twitter, on Discord, on the entire internet. I might. No, I'm not on 4chan, but I do have
Good
a Reddit
call.
account.
All right.
Keep it classy.
Keep it classy, right? All right. Before we go, I just want to make sure that people know that when we go to the outro, that there will be announcements and stuff that we do there for the live folks. But if you're here watching right now live, then means you already found me on Twitch. My name is Miss Michelle Jean. I am commander of the Genie Crew, and you can find me at YouTube doesn't have a custom URL, so if you search for me, you can find me. Otherwise, I'm on the Twitter and Instagram that way as well. If you're listening to this on YouTube or on iTunes, Miss Michelle Jean, 1L in Michelle, is where you can find me on Twitch, where this coming Tuesday, we'll be going back to Los Santos as Officer Gene Hart of the LSPD. We have a bunch of new rooks that we have to break in, so there's a chance I'll be training in a rook, and while we deal with the shenanigans of town, I made it kind of a personal mission that whenever Gene runs into Bill Lustin, one of the lawyers, that she gives him a fruit. I don't think he's caught on to that yet, or at least references it to some degree. But I thought
this the latest love interest?
No, it is now a personal joke that I'm waiting for the player to catch on to.
I
But
do want an additional question.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of rooks.
Yep.
So
they can go sideways or up or down.
Squire?
Huh? Yeah, they can go sideways or up and down. That's all. That's all. They go sideways and up and down.
You're only allowed to turn pawns into other characters. You can't take rooks and turn them into anything else.
Yep. That's just pawns. Sorry.
Yeah. But that's one of those things that you would learn en passant.
Exactly. So we got that coming up.
Oh, okay.
We got that coming up on Tuesday, Wednesday. I think I'll be doing more Warframe because that's a thing. We've gotten through most of Venus and we go into Mercury in Warframe, and I got loose and still trying to learn about how that game works. And of course, we got Elite Dangerous coming up on Friday. Mind you, in 2 weeks' time, the Newbcast podcast will not be airing because I'll be at 2DCon. So,
we'll be happy to remind you to be there, though.
Oh yes, absolutely. Where I hope that I'll be able to pull off a surprise stream, based on what's available there. I'll be working with some other streamers at the time as well. The Minnesota Nice group is a fantastic group. So, yeah, I think that'll be it. For Shanna Upsall, for the Unabridged Gamer, and for DizzyG, my name is Miss Michelle Dean. This has been the Newbcast Podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fantastic night.